My wife is a gentle and virtuous beauty. She thinks of new ways to kill me every day. Either a headshot or dismemberment. It turns out it was just a dream. But the contents of the dream felt so real. At the moment Hugh lifted his head, the ceiling was covered with densely packed dark red blood words. Don't let them know you can see. Hugh looked shocked. Did he lapse into a daze? He incredulously rubbed his eyes. However, the next second, the bloodstains covering the ceiling inexplicably disappeared. Hugh subconsciously looked around. He froze in place, realizing that this was not his bedroom at all. After he finished last night, he clearly threw away 2 pieces of paper, but they were nowhere to be found. A mysterious sense of unease rose in his heart. Outside, the sun was shining brightly. But inside the house, it was dark as dead water. Where exactly is this? A sudden tearing pain struck his brain. A wave of jumbled and blurry memories rushed into his mind. It was only then that Hugh realized he had traveled through time. The original owner of the body is also named Hugh, with almost the same age and appearance. But what about the bloody words? There are no relevant memories in the original owner. Just then, a charming voice suddenly came. "Honey, it's time for breakfast." I saw a beautiful woman in a white nightgown standing at the door, gazing affectionately at Hugh. His fair, long legs were exposed in the air. Hugh was stunned for a moment. I got married so early in this world. And my wife is a fair and beautiful beauty. Suddenly, I feel time traveling would be great. Otherwise, I could never find such a pretty and virtuous wife in my lifetime. Just as Hugh was about to agree, he couldn't recall her name for a moment. Wife. Bride. Little sweetie. Madam. And then his brain frantically searched for memories about his wife. Suddenly, a horrifying thing happened. No dating experience. No special interests or hobbies. No preferred position. Nothing at all. Even. He glanced sideways at his gentle wife. It was only then that he noticed her pale skin devoid of any trace of color. Her cold smile remained unchanged. Even her eyes didn't blink. Hugh did not dare to look directly at her. He stammered and asked, "Who are you?" Before he could finish his sentence, his wife's smile suddenly changed. She quietly breathed out and asked, "Can you see me?" Her eyes erupted with immense greed. Her delicate skin kept rupturing. In the blink of an eye, her cherry lips already stretched to her ears. The flat teeth turned serrated. In an instant, fear swept over him like a tidal wave. It surged through his entire body. Hugh's mind went blank. The next second, a giant figure enveloped Hugh. A gaping mouth as big as a washbasin suddenly came at him. Hugh was so scared that tears streamed down his face. He dared not move. His head was directly eaten by his wife. Can you guys see me too? I have a plump and graceful wife. She wakes me up every day to satisfy her. Not only does she want my energy, she also wants my life. Just now, I was awakened by a burst of phone calls. I opened my sleepy eyes. The pupils suddenly contracted. A dense and bloody text came into view. Don't let them know that you can see. What's going on? Did I oversleep or something? I rubbed my eyes in disbelief. However, the next second, the bloodstains covering the ceiling disappeared into thin air. I unconsciously looked around. But the whole person suddenly stiffened. Strange bed and desk. This is not my bedroom at all. Suddenly, a soft and gentle voice sounded. It's time to get up and have breakfast. Only to see a charming and enchanting beauty appearing at the door. She is gazing at me affectionately in silence. I was immediately stunned. I have been single for 20.5 years. I have never even touched a girl's hand. When will I have a wife? I haven't realized it yet. She sat directly on my bed and said in a coquettish tone, "Honey, I want you." I looked at the voluptuous and charming beauty in front of me, my brain stunned and speechless. Is this proactive beauty for real? No matter what, the beauty is within reach. Indifferent or a man, what will it be? At this moment, I am already ecstatic inside. Anyway, I won't lose out in the end. I said calmly, "Then I'll go take a bath first." As soon as the words were spoken, my wife's pupils suddenly dilated, revealing a sinister smile. "You can see me!" She erupted with long-suppressed ecstasy in her eyes. The delicate skin kept cracking. In the blink of an eye, the cherry lips had widened to the ears. The even teeth turned into serrated edges. In an instant, fear rushed over like a tide, instantly flooding through my entire body. At this moment, my mind went blank. A giant figure enveloped me. A huge mouth suddenly attacked. I was so scared that I couldn't move. My head was instantly swallowed by the giantess. Is this how I die? Suddenly woke up from a deep sleep, feeling frightened and uneasy at the moment. What happened? Wasn't I bitten to death? Is everything that happened just a dream? I suddenly looked up. There were densely packed blood-red characters. They disappeared again. Damn it. This is not a dream. Don't let them know you can see. Does the sentence mean that you shouldn't let your wife know that you can see her? Just pretend she doesn't exist. At this point, a delicate little hand reached out. The wife appeared again at the bedroom door. You're awake. It's time to have breakfast. Although she was a stunning beauty at the moment. But I felt like sitting on pins and needles, afraid of being discovered that I could see. I forced myself to pretend not to see out of fear. I bowed my head and frantically considered how to deal with it. However, she took the initiative to come closer. She gazed at me affectionately. The plump and towering chest was right in front of my eyes. I really wanted to look inside but didn't dare to. Suddenly, her head twisted 360 degrees. She stared straight at me and started laughing. At this moment, I looked at her with a frightened expression on my face. Our eyes met. She stuck out her long tongue and let out a delighted laugh. She crazily licked my cheeks. Can you see me? A sense of panic instantly struck. Then she bit my head off again. I woke up in fear once again. I sprang up from the bed suddenly. That damn ghost. Trying every way to kill me. Fear makes my hands tremble nonstop. I'm on the verge of breaking down. What on earth is going on? Is it death loop or infinite cycle? Just now, I didn't look down, but she took the initiative to come over and tempt me. This shows that she must make sure I can see before taking action. I picked up the phone. I was watching short videos intently. At this moment, my wife appeared again. Honey, why are you looking at other women in front of me? Do you not like me anymore? I pretended to stay calm. Then her soft chest was pressed tightly against me, rubbing up and down continuously. She whispered softly in my ear, Why are you putting your phone so close? Are you trying to avoid seeing me? I broke out in a cold sweat instantly. Can't abnormal behavior be allowed? Calm down, calm down. She has not transformed yet. She probably hasn't noticed. But when I flipped to the next video, my pupils suddenly froze. The girl inside turned out to be my wife. She charmingly asked me, Husband, do I look pretty? I exclaimed, threw the phone straight out, kept backing away. At this moment, I was extremely terrified. It's over, it's over. I've been found out. The next second, my wife's voice suddenly came from behind. Can you see me? Instantly, she turned into a ferocious downpour, attacking fiercely. Am I going to be killed again? I am unwilling to be captured without a fight. With a roar, I threw a punch towards the ugly face ruthlessly. But the fierce wife easily dodged the attack. Then the bloody mouth attacked again. Suddenly bit my hand fiercely, directly biting it off. Ah! The wife crazily licked my hand, eating with a crunch, as if it were very delicious. Is this time being eaten? Let me die in such pain. Next time. What's next? Write in the comments your favorite way to die. Waking up to find a plump and graceful wife. But she is very playful. Once I discover that I can see her, she will devour me in one gulp. I can only lower my head and pretend not to see. But she intentionally seduces me with her beauty. She even licks my cheeks with her long tongue. I can't bear it anymore. I raised my hand and threw a punch. However, the result is indeed. This is my 5th reincarnation. I face my ghostly wife as if she were nothing. I secretly fapped in front of her. After I finished, I went to the bathroom to clean up. To my surprise, my wife suddenly popped out from the toilet. My little brother was so scared that he shrunk back in. The 5th time. Died from poor acting. The 6th time. I yelled for help desperately, but no one heard me. The 7th time. I was angry and wanted to fight back. I was still eaten. The 8th time. I was desperate. Since I couldn't escape. Then just accept it calmly. And revel with my wife every night. Died 17.5 times in a row. I seem to be completely crazy and chaotic. And the cycle of death continues. In each death, I receive the memories of the original owner of the body, and I roughly understand what kind of world this is. The only difference from the past life is that in this world, there are significantly more bizarre and absurd supernatural stories. This is the 18th reincarnation. At this point, my heart is already desperate and numb. My wife appeared in the bedroom again. I discovered in my continuous cycle of reincarnations. She always tries to wake me up each time. However, she has never had any physical contact with me. So she can only act when she is sure I can see her. Otherwise, she is just a phantom. Later, I made breakfast for myself. Even if she was by my side fiddling with her hair coquettishly, I turned a blind eye. As long as I leave here, to investigate the clues about my wife outside, find the secrets of this world, then I can get rid of this female ghost. After eating breakfast, I am ready to go out. Even if she transformed into a doorknob, it wouldn't make any difference. The heavy door slammed shut. I finally walked out, filled with only one thought. Revenge. I must seek revenge. I will find a way to eradicate the ghost before returning. Walking down the stairs leisurely, soon arrived at the entrance of the unit. I pushed the door open slowly. Behind the door was a ray of dawn. But the moment I stepped out of the door, I froze in place. My body couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. My numb eyes were once again filled with fear and unease. Countless terrifying monsters stood in formation. They were densely packed together. What on earth is happening in this world? Is this hell? I have a plump and charming wife. She found out because I peeked at another girl. Wife's expression instantly changed. Anger blazed in her eyes. The delicate skin kept cracking. In the blink of an eye, the cherry lips transformed into monster-like jagged edges. Fear flooded through the body in an instant. I was just checking out a girl. Is it really that bad? A huge mouthful of blood rushed towards me in an instant. Suddenly, it took a big bite of my head and swallowed it. After I died 18 times. Finally escaped from the room. Escaped from the female ghost wife. I thought the world outside the door would be filled with warm sunshine. But this sunlight is making me shiver with cold. The tall buildings are full of monstrous and terrifying creatures. They are densely packed together. There are humanoid figures all around, completely shrouded in darkness, their features indiscernible. I stare blankly in horror at this terrifying scene. Is this hell? Just escaped from the clutches of my ghost wife, only to fall into a terrifying hell of despair. My tense mind instantly collapsed. The frenzied soul seems to be distorted and torn apart. I couldn't contain myself and burst into uncontrollable laughter. This world is too crazy. The wild laughter made me unable to stop coughing. I even started to dry heave. Just then, a voice suddenly came. "Uncle, what's wrong with you?" a person suddenly appeared out of nowhere. I suppressed the madness in my heart and tried to calm myself down. I found that it was just a 4 or 5-year-old little girl with 2 braided pigtails. She was eating a lollipop. "Uncle, are you sick?" "I'm trying to make myself look more normal." "Kindly pat her little head." "I'm fine. Also, you should call me brother." The next second, the lovely little girl instantly transformed into a creature with fangs, eyes showing the same craziness as her wife, and her body crazily expanding at a visible speed. In the blink of an eye, I could only look up at her. The monster's eyes flickered with green light, showing a fierce expression. The lollipop in its hand also turned into a big bone club. I burst into laughter instantly, even more bizarre than before. "It's so interesting. But compared to before, I like your current appearance more. Because, in this way, there will be no guilt when killing in the future." It raised a heavy fist and struck violently towards me. With a thud, I was smashed into a lump of flesh. This is my 19th reincarnation. The madness on my face has been replaced by a dead calm. At this moment, my wife appeared again. "It's time to get up and have breakfast." I ignored her and went to the community park again. Alone, I quietly observed the various bizarreness of the world and found that these bizarreness can be roughly divided into 2 categories. One kind looks hideous, like monsters that only know how to roar and attack. But they are as insignificant as air, unable to affect anything around them at all. The other kind is humanoid in bizarreness. They will always accompany you, trying to blend into your life. If they receive a response, they will attack you. Just like my dear wife. Even if ordinary people don't notice, they are still entangled with you. I am thinking about what these bizarreness really want to do. A creepy thought suddenly struck. Are these bizarreness attempting to integrate into human life? It's a world where ghosts and monsters roam. The only way to survive is to pretend you see nothing. My wife is one of those female ghosts. Every time she catches me seeing her, she will open her gaping mouth. She swallowed my head in one gulp. After being killed by her 18 times, my heart was as calm as dead water. I also turned a blind eye to all the temptations from my wife. Finally, I walked out of this house. I must find a way to kill the ghosts and monsters. Kill my dear wife. I started observing these hideous ghosts and monsters. One type is a monstrous creature without reason. It cannot have any impact on real things. One type is humanoid ghosts and monsters that always follow humans. Once they receive a response, they will reveal their true form and kill humans. In order to obtain more information about ghosts and monsters, I scanned a shared bike. At this moment, the phone rang with a message. It's already afternoon, and they still haven't come to work. Are you still interested in getting bonus commissions or not? At this moment, I just remembered that the commission from half a year ago has not been paid yet. I resigned directly. The most important thing now is to investigate the information about ghosts and monsters. Then I rode my bike. I rushed towards the company all the way. Shortly after, I arrived at the company's doorstep. I was suddenly stunned. The sales department in my memory. It has turned into a bizarre hospital. And it is a psychiatric hospital. At this time, the phone rang. My colleague Dennis informed me that Roger is getting angry. I told him I would be at the company shortly, and then hung up the phone. In my memory, this clearly is White Willow Academy, but it has turned into a mental hospital. Is this hospital also bizarre? I walked in through the entrance. But the next second, I felt like I ran into something. And it was soft. Can't get into the psychiatric hospital. I reached out and touched it. A soft and smooth feeling came from the hand. This texture. Could it be? Suddenly a slap came fiercely. Stinky hooligan. I will complain about you. I realized that I touched a girl's private area. After being slapped, I just found out. It is indeed White Willow Academy here. Did I have an illusion? I unbelievably checked again. In front of my eyes, it turned back into a mental hospital. Could it be that I am still at White Willow Academy, and this mental hospital is just an illusion? It's probably like those ghosts, only accessible under specific conditions. Otherwise, everything is just an illusion. I reach out to touch it. The whole person goes straight through the wall. And the scene inside makes me terrified again. Deep inside the long corridor, bloodstains of bizarreness are visible everywhere. Like the bloodthirsty mouth of a demon. It's chilling. These monsters were originally ordinary humans. It's only because this mental hospital was conducting bizarre experiments, transforming captured mental patients into bizarreness. To uncover the truth, I came to this mysterious mental hospital. Inside, there are eerie and terrifying bloodstains scattered everywhere, as if a demon's wide-open bloody mouth. I walked through all corners of the hospital. In this overlapping space, I didn't find any traces of living beings until I arrived in front of a ward. The bloody iron gate was tightly closed, emitting a strong smell of blood. The number 104 was written on the ward. I couldn't help but be curious about what was inside. I reached out my hand to touch the gate and cautiously walked closer. I walked straight through the ward door and discovered a girl curled up in bed, trembling. Then, she trembled as she sat up unsteadily. She suddenly turned her head. It was a face without facial features. It stared straight at me. And my heart was calm. I just glanced at it with the corner of my eye. Then I continued to walk forward, leaving the bewildered female ghost behind. Later, I arrived at the next room. A huge four-eyed monster with beads suddenly appeared in front of me. I continued walking forward, ignoring everything in front of me. The monster looked stunned. Is this guy a human or a ghost? Even ghosts should have some reaction. I kept shuttling back and forth between various wards. Inside, there were all kinds of bizarreness, at least dozens of them. There were also several empty wards. The doors were wide open. Has the bizarreness inside escaped? Facing these once again, I can remain unfazed. And all this is thanks to my wife's 18 consecutive kills. My dearest wife. Finally, I arrived at a doctor's examination room. Some medical records and information were scattered on the floor. It boldly says on it, Experimental subject number 128 transformed into bizarreness. I was stunned at the thought. Could it be that all the bizarreness was transformed from humans? Those in the ward are all humans. I wanted to look through the medical records, but it was all an illusion. Damn. There is simply no way to make contact. Suddenly, fine black hair appeared before my eyes. I suddenly realized, there is a bizarre situation here. Calm down, my heart. I slowly got up. A female ghost doctor suddenly appeared on the ceiling. Her hair naturally falls on top of my head. She bends down and whispers softly in my ear. Do you want to explore the mysteries of life with me? I ignore her directly. I pondered with my head down. Since there are clues in the office, the dean's office should have more information. Why not go there directly and take a look? The office area of the mental hospital happens to overlap with the sales office. I didn't see the director's office on the first floor, so I went straight upstairs. When I just walked up to the second floor, two people suddenly appeared and walked towards me. Dennis, the department manager, and Roger. When Roger saw me, he immediately started to curse loudly. And I simply ignored him. The most important thing at that moment was to find the dean's office. Isn't there a second floor? Immediately after, I proceeded to the third floor. I ignore him. Roger quickly called Dennis to stop me. Arriving at the third floor, a room in the distance immediately caught my attention. The door was prominently labeled with Dean's Office. All doubts could be answered inside. Everyone who enters this mental hospital turns into bizarreness, but I remain unscathed. Because I am already numb to these bizarreness. As long as I turn a blind eye, I can safely survive. This is all thanks to my ghost wife. After being killed by her 18 times, my fear in the face of bizarreness has long been as calm as dead water. To investigate information about bizarreness, I came to this mysterious mental hospital. It happens to be located in the sales office of my company. Its existence intersects with the space-time of the real world. I learned that there is important information about bizarreness in the director's office. I am searching everywhere for its location. Finally saw it at the end of a corridor. The room door is marked Director's Office. But in the real world, this is the office of the chairman. I impatiently opened the door. The scene inside left me stunned. I saw my colleague face sitting provocatively on the desk. Manager Prince is doing the wheelbarrow with her. Someone suddenly burst in. Prince's little brother quickly shrank back. He pulled up his pants and angrily started swearing. Who let you in? I don't care about this. My mind is all on the desk. I reached out and grabbed Faye's hand, just as everyone thought I was going to do something to her. I pushed her away. I finally found information about bizarreness on the desk. I focus on reading the letter. I found out that this mental hospital does have a big secret indeed. Do you want to know the truth about this world? Do you want to know what bizarreness really is? I have left everything in room 520 of Building C. Everything you want to know is there. Go. Go and find out. The signature, Austin Joe, should be the director of the psychiatric hospital. Who is this letter written to? Did he foresee that I was coming? Following that, I walked outside. Building C, room 520, right? All the answers to my doubts are there. But the next moment, the light bulb buzzed and went out in an instant. What's going on? Suddenly there was a power outage. But when I turned on my flashlight, I realized it wasn't just a simple power outage. The flashlight could only illuminate a small area, and my phone had no signal. I looked around in all directions. The psychiatric hospital where time and space overlap has disappeared. At this moment, Prince beside me said, "No signal on the phone. The light is being suppressed. If I'm not mistaken, we may have entered the mysterious realm." It turns out his cousin is a spirit master who knows some secrets about ghosts and monsters. Upon hearing this, I suddenly became extremely excited. Is there another strangeness appearing? Got the information about bizarreness from the dean's office. I am preparing to go to room 520 in Building C to check it out. The sales office suddenly had a power outage. The inexplicable power outage made people uneasy. It gave off a bizarre and eerie feeling. At this moment, the employees started complaining. The video that was just edited hasn't been saved yet. Why did the power suddenly go out? Roger stopped them and quickly went to check if there was a circuit breaker tripped. At this time, the security guard uncle walked up, preparing to go check the main circuit breaker for any issues. The office was pitch black, making the employees feel uneasy. Someone then noticed that the flashlight had a very limited range. Initially, they thought it was a problem with their phones. Following this, everyone's phones were the same. They only then realized that something was amiss. To learn more about the mysterious realm, I asked Prince what the mysterious realm is. Others were taken aback when they heard my question. Some even mocked me, wondering if I was joking. At that moment, Prince yelled out angrily, "Shut up, everyone! Keep quiet! What I am about to say is crucial. It concerns everyone's life and death." Seeing Prince's serious expression, everyone dared not make a sound. Simply put, ghosts exist in this world. A mysterious realm refers to the domain of ghosts. It can be understood as an alternate dimension where it belongs to ghosts. A little carelessness would lead to violating the ghost's laws of killing. The way Prince is portrayed is vivid and lifelike. Everyone is terrified and uneasy. Is it true that there are ghosts in this world? At this moment, Roger is shivering on the side. What should we do? Prince pretended to be calm and said, "Right now, we need to find a way to escape from the damn mysterious realm. Otherwise, everyone will be killed." At this moment, everyone was unusually quiet. The only sound that could be heard was their own heartbeat. This familiar feeling could not be wrong. Bizarreness is coming from outside. Woke up to find a plump and graceful wife by my side. But she is very playful. Once she realizes I can see her, she will either eat me whole or break me down into pieces. After experiencing 18 rebirths, I achieved a numbness akin to dead ashes in my heart. No matter what she does in front of me, I completely turn a blind eye to it. To kill her, I came to a mental hospital to find a way. There are dozens of bizarreness here that are just like my wife, but as long as you ignore them, it is extremely safe. I found a letter in the director's office that shocked me. Do you want to know the truth of this world? Do you want to know what bizarreness really is? I left everything in room 520 of Building C. Everything you want to know is there. Go. Go and search. Just as I was preparing to go to Building C, the light bulb suddenly went out with a buzz. I turned on the flashlight to look around. The light was bright, but it could only illuminate half a meter ahead. Even more eerie was the mysterious mental hospital that had disappeared. In its place stood the company's sales department. Everyone walked towards the second-floor offices. Someone tried to make a phone call, but couldn't get through. At this point, everyone gathered together to discuss this mysterious power outage. Prince asked everyone to be quiet. What he is about to say is a matter of life and death for everyone. The light is dim. There is no phone signal. All of this indicates that we have entered the mysterious realm. And the mysterious realm refers to the realm of ghosts. It can be understood as an alternate dimensional space. Inside, it belongs to the ghosts. A little carelessness would easily violate the ghost's law of killing. Prince is vividly portrayed. Everyone is terrified and uneasy. The security guard who went to check the circuit just now has not returned yet. Is it true that there are ghosts in this world? Just as his voice fell, another female colleague was silently taken away. Everyone's hearts were filled with fear and unease. Prince shouted loudly for everyone to be quiet. The only way to break through the current situation is for someone to become a spirit master. And to become a spirit master, one must rely on the power of ghosts. One is to experience the terrifying baptism between life and death. It stimulates fluctuations in the soul. The second is to contact ghosts. Let the power of ghosts invade the soul. But be careful. The power of ghosts is like a bloody rag. While stimulating abilities, it will also contaminate the soul. After experiencing the purification of the 18 consecutive kills of my wife, my soul has long been stimulated. But I have never had any contact with bizarreness. Those are all illusions from another dimension. And now the bizarreness from illusions has invaded reality. As long as you come into contact with these bizarreness more, you will have the ability to eliminate them. Thinking of this, I am exceptionally excited. Finally, there is a way to kill bizarreness. My dearest wife, you wait for me at home. I will become a spirit master to kill you. Another colleague has disappeared now. The intervals at which they disappear are between 2 to 3 minutes. Instead of waiting here to die, it's better to take the initiative to find the ghosts. I must kill all the bizarreness. The man clearly has a plump and charming wife. He likes touching nurses' white stockings instead. Not just touching them himself is satisfying enough. He even has to call his buddies to touch together. All because his wife at home abuses him every day. She didn't bite off his hand. She even swallowed his head. He was killed 18 times in a row during continuous reincarnations. Finally, one day he escaped from his wife's clutches. He swore to find a way to eliminate the ghost and seek revenge. He wants to kill his beloved wife. For this, Hugh came to a mental hospital. Inside, there were dozens of ghosts who looked just like his wife. And the way to avoid being killed by them was very simple. As long as you ignore them, they won't harm you. More importantly, there is a way to eliminate ghosts here. The person favored by destiny. Do you want to know the truth of this world? Do you want to know what bizarreness really is? I left everything in room 520 of Building C. Everything you want to know is there. Just as Hugh was about to seek the answers. But suddenly there was a power outage. Even more strange is that the previously mysterious mental hospital suddenly disappeared. In its place was a company's sales office. At this moment, everyone gathered together. Colleagues found that the bright lights could only illuminate half a meter away, and there is no signal on the cell phone. Various abnormal phenomena. We may have entered the mysterious realm. At this moment, you noticed that a female colleague suddenly disappeared. Everyone was even more terrified and uneasy. To escape from here, you must become a spirit master. The key to becoming a spirit master is to come into contact with bizarreness. Let the power of ghosts invade the mind. Ignite the spirituality deep within. Those present are only thinking about how to stay alive, let alone coming into contact with ghosts. Only Hugh remained calm and composed. But in the next second, another colleague disappeared without a trace. Prince was frightened to the core, fearful that he might be the next one to vanish. And the keen Hugh noticed that the intervals between the disappearances were always 2 to 3 minutes. It should be that men disappear every 3 minutes and women every 2 minutes. As time passes, someone will disappear. And there are still about 8 people left here. The whole army will perish in about 20 minutes. Rather than waiting to die, it's better to take the initiative to attack and look for clues. Hugh left the office with his good friends. What came into view was a dark corridor that seemed bottomless. Hugh was surprised to discover that the sales office had mysteriously turned into a mental hospital. If the mental hospital materialized, then the dozens of ghosts locked inside would also materialize. This means that ghosts could appear at any time. The sales office bizarrely turned into a mental hospital. If the mental hospital materializes, then the dozens of ghosts inside will also materialize. This means that ghosts could appear at any time. Hugh is not frightened but happy. This brings him one step closer to the truth. The two continue forward and suddenly discover a pool of blood at their feet. The scene before their eyes is terrifying. All they see are the torn clothes of the 3 missing people scattered all over the place, with pieces of flesh and bone fragments still clinging to them. This means that the people who were taken were all eaten by the ghosts. Additionally, the man had relatively more meat, so the time spent being eaten by the ghosts was longer. Suddenly, at that moment, footsteps echoed from the depths of the quiet corridor. Dennis trembled as he looked ahead. It turned out that Prince and his group had also come out. When they saw the purgatory in front of them, their pupils suddenly constricted. Prince was also scared, feeling a chill down his spine. They didn't expect that the missing people had all been eaten. At this moment, Hugh glanced at his phone. He said lightly, "Time's up." Prince was confused. "What time's up?" Suddenly, there was a cracking sound from behind. The crowd turned around in horror, only to see a female ghost doctor hanging upside down from the ceiling. Her head turned with a cracking sound. She suddenly opened her bloody mouth and charged toward the crowd. Fear spread like a tidal wave. The crowd fled frantically. Faye was accidentally knocked to the ground. She grabbed Prince's coat corner for help. But the female ghost in front of him had already scared him silly. He shook off Faye's hand. He desperately ran away. Just like that, Faye was abandoned. She continuously screamed for help, but no one dared to approach. A flash of silvery light from a blade was seen. Faye perished from this world. And the female ghost doctor did not stop. She frantically dismembered Faye with a scalpel. The entire scene was gory and terrifying. Watching the scene in front of him, Dennis was completely stunned. At this moment, Hugh was calmly analyzing. He was speculating about the female ghost doctor's pattern of killing. It should be killing people nearby and only one person each time. Otherwise, he and Dennis definitely wouldn't be able to escape. The dismembered female ghost physician began to devour voraciously. After understanding the pattern of killing, Hugh walked towards the female ghost physician. He clenched his fists and punched it hard. But Hugh seemed to be punching a steel plate. Instead, his own hand got injured. The female ghost doctor ignored Hugh and continued eating elegantly. It seems that only by becoming a spirit master can one kill it. The key lies in letting the eerie power infiltrate one's spirituality. And physical contact will definitely speed up the infection. Hugh looked at the long legs in front of him. He slowly reached out his right hand and touched them. The terrified Dennis saw this scene and was utterly shocked to the core. Hugh, I thought watching Japanese and Korean action movies every day was already perverted enough. I didn't expect you to be even more twisted, daring to take advantage of a ghost. However, what I didn't expect was that Hugh actually called Dennis over to join in touching. Although Dennis was reluctant, he hadn't touched a girl in the 2.5 years he'd been single. Fine, I'll touch. In the instant of touching, a cool sensation swept over. Dennis took a sharp breath of cool air, but did not move his hand away. The icy touch had a soft elasticity. The more he touched it, the more he felt. He kept rubbing it forcefully. Dennis also recalled the short clip from last night in his mind. A minute later, Hugh picked up his phone and glanced at the time. Almost there. We need to leave enough time for our escape. As long as we leave before the female ghost doctor finishes eating. He is confident that he can widen the distance. Just as the two of them reached the end of the corridor, a few strands of hair suddenly descended in front of Hugh. It was the female ghost doctor who had caught up. Hugh was startled. Could he have misjudged the killing pattern? Faye's body should be able to last another minute. But when he turned his head to look, what met his eyes were two large pieces of silicone. Hugh was stunned. Silicone? Fake? Before he could react, a flash of silver light streaked past. Hugh's head was thrown high into the air. At this moment, he had only one thought. May there be no silicone in heaven. When he woke up again, he was startled to find himself touching a thigh instead of being back with his wife. Could it be that death rewinds are event-based? Just like the levels in a game, the saved event automatically advances to the second level. In order to avoid being harmed by the silicone again, Hugh immediately pulled Dennis away. However, he still felt reluctant to leave the ghost lady doctor. Hugh reminded, "If we don't leave now, the ghost lady will eat you." Then the two of them ran downstairs frantically. They soon caught up with Prince and his group. Dennis was puzzled. Why are you running so slowly? But the yellow-haired man said they had descended at least 20 levels. But Hugh and I only descended 2 levels before encountering you. At this moment, Prince said tremblingly, "Ghost hitting the wall. It must be ghost hitting the wall. Otherwise, we wouldn't be going down the stairs all the time." In order to verify if the ghost was creating a visual obstruction, Hugh suggested taking out extra items and throwing them on the ground as markers. Immediately after, everyone rushed downstairs. But right at the corner of the lower floor, there appeared the items that had just been discarded. Everyone was terrified. It's over, it's over. Now we can't even escape. If the female ghost doctor catches up, it's all over. Hugh did not pay attention to the crowd. Instead of running aimlessly, it's better to find an escape route. He recalled the layout of the psychiatric hospital. The exit to the stairwell was on the right side. Hugh felt his way up along the wall. He groped step by step from top to bottom. Suddenly, it seemed like he had touched something. A door suddenly appeared on the wall. Indeed, there was an escape route here. But at the moment the iron door was opened, a strange atmosphere swept in. It felt as if a demon was about to devour everyone. The man has a voluptuous and graceful wife. However, he likes to touch the nurse's black stockings outside. It is not exciting enough for him to touch them alone. He even calls his good buddies to join in the touching. Because it is only through close contact with ghosts. Can you rely on the power of ghosts to light up spirituality? Thus becoming the legendary spirit master with the ability to eliminate ghosts. And as long as time for escape is reserved, they wouldn't be chased by the female ghost doctor. At this moment, everyone encountered a ghost wall. No matter how many times they go down the stairs, they always end up back at the starting point. Just as everyone was praying fervently, Hugh was searching for clues alone. Instead of doing meaningless things here, it's better to look for a way out. Even if it's a situation like ghost hitting the wall, there should be a hidden path. Hugh continued to feel along the wall. Sure enough, he found a door at the corner. Behind the door was a dimly lit corridor. It seemed as if there were terrifying ghosts inside. Seeing that there was an exit, Prince was the first to rush in. Everyone else also fled inside like mad, afraid of being too slow. But Hugh was neither fast nor slow. Good brother Dennis immediately shouted, "Hugh, run quickly! The female ghost doctor behind is catching up." Hugh chuckled. There is no need to run too fast when facing the female ghost doctor. As long as he isn't the last one, it's fine. Because the female ghost doctor will kill the nearest person. Moreover, every time after killing someone, she will focus on eating. This also makes it convenient to touch her thigh and quickly light up spirituality. At this moment, the guy in the back was so scared that his diaper was soaked. Hurry up and run. Don't block my way. While everyone else continued running, Prince suddenly stopped everyone. What appeared before their eyes were two forked roads. At this moment, a smart guy said to his colleague, "Why don't you try the left side?" His colleague immediately refuted. "Why don't you, the smart guy, try it yourself?" At this moment, everyone's eyes involuntarily turned towards Hugh. Just now, Ghost hit the wall, and he found a way out. They instinctively thought he knew which way led to safety. Hugh sneered. He couldn't wait to push me away while running. When faced with difficulties, they thought of me again. Isn't this clearly treating me as a tool? However, Hugh didn't care about these people. The current female ghost doctor is an invincible existence. To buy time, you must fill it with human lives. And these people are just tools to be used as sacrifices. Hugh, without thinking, walked straight to the right, and everyone else blindly and crazily ran to the right as well. Because at that moment, a strange sound came from behind them. Hugh was not frightened but delighted. It was the female ghost doctor who had caught up, and the fattest manager was running at the back. Because of his body size, no matter how he ran, he couldn't outrun the female doctor. She quickly crawled over, making the sound of joints turning. Her eyes glowed as she stared at the manager. It was as if she was admiring her prey. Long black hair kept growing. At this moment, the manager was already scared out of his wits, and was desperately calling for help like a madman. He grabbed the collar of the yellow-haired man in front of him. He pulled back hard. Using the momentum, he ran forward. The yellow-haired man fell to the ground, angrily shouting, "Roger, you bastard!" A flash of silver light was seen. With unwillingness and anger, yellow-haired man died instantly. The bald manager, however, did not feel a trace of guilt. He even laughed and said, "I will take good care of your wife." And this scene happened to be witnessed by Hugh. People who have lost their humanity, how are they any different from a ghost? Hugh did not run anymore. Instead, he turned around and walked towards the female ghost doctor. Now is the best time to touch the thigh. Immediately, he lifted the female ghost doctor's thigh and started touching it. And this scene happened to be witnessed by his good brother Dennis. "Hugh, you're actually hogging it all for yourself. Next time there's something good like touching thighs, call me along." Hugh looked at Dennis and thought, as expected during the day, at this time, he can still take the initiative to touch. Maybe he can really light up spirituality. 2.5 minutes later, they started running again. At the end of the corridor, they caught up with the manager and others. At this point, they arrived at a restaurant. But no matter how hard everyone searched, they couldn't find the exit. Hugh calmly pondered. Did we choose the wrong direction? It seems that next time we should choose the left path. He was not at all flustered. After all, this was just a trial and error. But just at this moment, everyone angrily blamed Hugh, saying it was all his fault for choosing the wrong path. If you hadn't chosen the wrong path, we wouldn't be trapped here. Hugh's lips curled into a strange smile. It's all my fault. Humans are truly fascinating creatures. The man broke through the deathly ghost barrier to rescue his colleague. But the colleague, ungrateful, sent him to his death instead. Just because there was a female doctor ghost chasing them, and everyone fled into a dead end. There was only a utility room here. There was no other way out. At this moment, everyone was blaming Hugh. If you hadn't chosen the wrong path, would we be stuck here? If you didn't know which way was the right path, couldn't you have discussed it with everyone? Only good brother Dennis stood up. Hugh didn't force you to come along either. It was you who asked for directions in the first place. Now that you've made the wrong choice, you start blaming Hugh. Why didn't you make the choice yourself just now? The bald manager pointed and said, "We trusted him, that's why we let him choose. Who knew he would betray everyone's trust and lead us into a dead end?" The honest and simple Dennis was at a loss for words after being berated. Prince came over and pushed the two apart. "Stop arguing. The most important thing now is how to survive. According to my observations, this ghost has a 3-minute safe period after each attack. So the only way now is to choose someone to divert it." At this moment, everyone couldn't help but look at Hugh, and Hugh's lips involuntarily curled up. "So, after all this talk, you want to use my life to buy time for everyone to escape?" Prince pretended to be furious and walked towards Hugh. "If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be in this desperate situation." Prince suddenly pushed Hugh away. He decided Hugh's life and death like a judge. "So it must be you who distracts the ghost." Good brother Dennis roared. "Let go of Hugh!" He charged towards Prince. The remaining people looked at each other in dismay. They didn't know what to do about the current situation. Dennis grabbed Prince by the neck. "Stop it! If anyone is going to distract the ghost, it should be you." Prince, frightened, quickly shouted, "Roger, hurry up and come help!" The bald manager responded and ran over. He rushed behind Dennis and forcefully pulled him away. He pinned him to the ground and firmly locked him. "Prince, I've got him!" At this moment, the door to the storage room suddenly closed. Only Hugh was left alone, abandoned outside the door. He watched the scene coldly. He was unafraid in the face of death. Because he possessed the ability to roll back after death, attracting the ghost was meaningless to him. He just didn't expect to see such an interesting scene. In order to survive, he actually sent his close colleague to death. I always thought I wouldn't be interested in people anymore, but I didn't expect that sometimes people can be more interesting than ghosts. Thank you for making me a bit more interested in this world. At this moment, the female ghost doctor rushed over at high speed. A flash of silver light passed by. Hugh, with an evil smile, said, "Next time, I will repay you well." The man is a prophet with infinite rebirths. At this moment, he is being chased by a female ghost doctor. This is because he can foresee the correct escape route. However, his colleague repaid his kindness with ingratitude. They completely forgot that Hugh had just broken the ghost wall and saved their lives. They turned around and locked him outside to attract the female ghost. Faced with the female ghost doctor, he was not afraid at all. He even felt like laughing. Because he had the ability to infinitely rewind upon death. He had long become numb to life and death. But at this moment, he became interested in the baseness of human nature. Faced with the selfishness and ingratitude of his colleagues. The next time, he would surely repay them well. Because Hugh never holds grudges. He takes his revenge on the spot. The reborn Hugh once again cracked the ghost wall. He led everyone to the crossroads. Prince saw that Hugh was able to accurately find the way out. He thought that he was the rumored spirit master, so there was hope of escaping. Hugh turned to look at Prince. He remembered how Prince had looked smug after having caused his death earlier. In a flash, he kicked and shattered Prince's egg. The sound of the egg shattering was clearly audible. At this moment, Prince wanted to cry, but no sound came out. His entire body was shaking uncontrollably. He was in so much pain that he kneeled in front of Hugh. Roger, acting as a lackey, angrily questioned Hugh. "What are you doing? Why did you suddenly kick someone?" Hugh merely said calmly, "Ghost speed far surpasses that of humans, so someone is bound to die in a minute." Now that Prince has lost the ability to move, he is the one who's going to die. So, I am saving you all. Everyone looked puzzled, but they couldn't tell what was wrong. Only his good brother Dennis nodded in support. In the next second, Hugh lifted his left foot and kicked again. The sound of an egg breaking echoed once again. Roger instantly let out a scream. His position, as he fell to the ground, was identical to Prince's. After a piercing scream, he fainted. Dennis beside him was so frightened that he covered his crotch. Hugh, that's a really vicious move. The colleague angrily questioned. Hugh, what on earth are you doing? Attacking Prince was to save us. But what about attacking Roger? Hugh calmly responded as always. Leave one as a backup. That way, everyone will have enough time to escape. Dennis looked at Hugh with admiration. Sure enough, Hugh had rigorous logic. At this moment, everyone was talking. They all felt that Hugh's actions were too harsh. It was simply shocking. Hugh just pointed to the corridor on the right and said, The right side is a dead end. If you want to escape, go to the left. At this point, everyone no longer trusted him. Then why don't you go to the left yourself? Hugh said faintly. I'm waiting to touch the thigh. Everyone looked bewildered. Touch the thigh? How could there be a thigh to touch at a life and death moment? Only Dennis walked over excitedly. Hugh, touch the thigh and take me along. I love touching thighs the most. Just at this moment, the female ghost doctor chased after them. Everyone was terrified and turned around to run, fearing being caught by the female ghost. But they were also worried that Hugh might be deceiving them. They just ran into the left corridor and hid. Meanwhile, Hugh was not far from Prince, waiting for the female ghost doctor to come over. He planned to touch the female ghost's thigh at the first opportunity. At this moment, Prince was still pleading. You save me! But he suddenly felt that his crotch was wet. He raised his hand and saw it was all blood. It turned out that his testicles had already been crushed into pieces. Blood flowed continuously as if he were having a period. At this moment, Prince angrily lunged at Hugh. If I can't escape, neither can you, he said. Having lost his vital essence, Prince moved slowly. Hugh lifted a foot and stepped on his hand. He leaned down and said to Prince, Don't worry. I won't leave. I want to see you die right in front of me. Immediately, the female ghost doctor twisted the prince's neck. Fresh blood spurted out. Hugh was splattered all over his face. He licked the blood off his face. So that's how it is. This is the taste of revenge. It feels pretty good. Hugh was extremely excited. His body trembled uncontrollably. His heart started pounding violently. He started laughing like a madman. He never imagined his heart could beat so fast. At this moment, Hugh thought of his beautiful wife at home. Wife, wait for me. I will definitely escape from here and return to your side. The man has a voluptuous and graceful wife. He could only sneakily touch the nurse's black stockings outside. Because only by having physical contact with the ghost can you absorb the ghost's power from it to light up spirituality, thereby becoming the legendary spirit master, thus having a chance to escape the mysterious realm. At this moment, Hugh is holding the female ghost's thigh, hugging from both sides. The colleagues nearby were stunned by this scene. They never expected that when Hugh said he was going to touch a thigh, he meant touching the female ghost's thigh. Hugh turned his head to look at his good buddy Dennis. Dennis, do you want to join in and touch it too? Dennis looked at Hugh, who had a face covered in blood. He stammered for a long time without being able to say a word. The colleague behind him was so scared that they quickly ran away. Hugh was taken aback. It was only then that he realized what was happening. What he was accustomed to, death, was only a source of fear in the eyes of others. But after he had died 21 times, his mind was filled with thoughts of revenge and madness. His human nature was gradually fading away. But Dennis was different. He was just an ordinary worker. If he was afraid of the female ghost and didn't want to touch it, Hugh wouldn't force him either. But Dennis spoke up and said, "My family background is ordinary. I've been single for 2.5 years and haven't had a girlfriend. Now it's rare to have the opportunity to touch a thigh. I'm willing to touch thighs with you." Hugh is very pleased. Perhaps Dennis can really escape with him. Dennis slowly walked over. Unexpectedly, he accidentally kicked Prince's head. Dennis quickly apologized. I'm sorry, Prince, I accidentally kicked you." Then he lifted his leg and stepped over Prince's head. Dennis shyly reached out his hand and touched it, even kneading and rubbing the female ghost's thigh. The more he touched, the more excited he became. Hugh was speechless. Can't he just touch the thigh properly? At that moment, Hugh felt a rush of cool air wash over him. He hurriedly asked Dennis if he felt a chill. "No, Hugh, I didn't feel anything at all." Hugh felt a sudden stirring. He carefully sensed the feeling in his hand. That wasn't an illusion. There was indeed a flow of cool air. From the female ghost doctor's thigh, it transmitted into the palm. Then it surged through the entire body via the palm. Could this be the infiltration of a strange power? Cool air enters the body. Could this be a sign of awakening spirituality? Watch Hugh seriously experiencing the feeling of touching his thigh. Dennis believes the time is ripe to become a spirit master. He immediately roams up and down the female ghost's thigh looking for a feeling. No matter how he touched, no cool air entered his body. Dennis asked in confusion, "Hugh, what does it feel like to light up spirituality? Why can't I feel it?" Although you have been in contact with ghosts for a long time, you have not experienced the real shock of life and death. Your mindset has not been stimulated, so you cannot feel it. Dennis wanted to say something but stopped. Hugh has clearly been with me all along. When did he experience life and death? At this moment, Hugh said, "We'll keep searching for another 2.5 minutes. Leave enough time for an escape." He then closed his eyes, carefully sensing the eerie power. More and more cool air flowed into his arms. But once inside his body, the cool air disappeared, as if it had sunk into the sea. Hugh couldn't help but wonder where the eerie aura had gone. He then focused his mind and immersed his consciousness. Did it flow into his mind? Or into his heart? At that moment, Hugh sensed a grayish heart pounding vigorously. All the cool air converged here, like thousands of rivers flowing into the sea. Hugh clearly felt a strange force. It was about to burst forth. That gray exterior would also break apart. The next second, all the ghostly aura crazily converged towards spirituality. And as more and more ghostly aura flowed in, deep within the spirituality, a bead as crimson as blood condensed. At this very moment, Hugh felt a radical transformation occur within himself. In an instant, it was as if his whole being was washed by black light. His senses became exceptionally acute. Olfactory senses. Taste also became much more sensitive. Even his brain's thinking and neural responses were enhanced. Hugh opened his eyes. The whole person suddenly felt enlightened. It was as if a gray, hazy veil had been lifted. Every subtle change was clearly visible. Although his physical condition did not change, his control over his body greatly improved. However, Hugh's spirituality is only about 1% activated. As long as there is enough bizarre power fusion, a stronger spirituality power can be unleashed. The abilities of a spirit master are a manifestation of spirituality power. Every spirit master will possess different abilities. It mainly relates to their inner self. Whatever you desire the most will be manifested. Hugh couldn't help but wonder, what will my ability be? Or rather, what is it that I truly desire in my heart? Hugh's heart tightened with pain. A feeling of unbearable pain instantly swept over his entire body. Hugh suddenly realized, my ability is. So my heart is full of pain? I can make the person being attacked feel pain. Not just physical pain, but also spiritual pain. Inflict all the pain I've experienced onto my enemies. Thinking of this, Hugh couldn't help but sneer. Then he burst into uncontrollable laughter. This ability is truly wonderful. Let the ghost experience my pain firsthand. Is there anything in this world more satisfying than this? This is exactly what my heart desires the most. Isn't that right, my dearest wife? You must wait at home for me to repay you. The man is an infinitely reincarnating prophet. At this moment, he is being chased by a female ghost, simply because he can foresee the correct escape route. But in the mysterious realm, he can't outrun the female ghost at all. To escape, one must become the legendary spirit master. At this moment, Hugh is holding the ghost woman's thighs, embracing her from both sides. As long as he keeps absorbing ghostly aura from the ghost, he can illuminate his spirituality. He will be able to step into the realm of a spirit master. And the special ability of Hugh becoming a spirit master is actually his attack. It can make the attack feel pain. To others, this is a trash ability. But for Hugh, it is like a divine skill. This way, he can make all the ghosts in the world feel his pain. He fantasized that after escaping, he could seek revenge on his wife. A long-lost smile appeared on his lips. Just as Hugh was immersed in his joy, his good brother Dennis suddenly interrupted him. Hugh, there's only 2.5 minutes left. Let's run quickly. Hugh suppressed his inner ecstasy and regained his composure. Turning to Dennis, he said, "You step back a bit. I'll test how powerful spirituality is." Dennis was overjoyed. He gave a thumbs up and quickly stepped back. "So, Hugh, you really became a spirit master. That's fantastic." Hugh came to the female ghost's side. He concentrated all the spiritual energy in his hand. He watched the female ghost doctor who was eating. "Let you be the first ghost to feel my pain." This punch contains the pain I endured from dying 21 times. Who else can withstand this level? Moreover, as the number of deaths increases in the future, all the pain will accumulate. This means that it is an ability that can be infinitely enhanced. Hugh hit the female ghost doctor. The female ghost who was eating had no reaction. Took a solid punch from Hugh. The female ghost doctor immediately fell to the ground. Holding her head with both hands, she let out a painful wail. The scalpel also slipped from her grasp and fell to the ground. He originally thought he could kill the female ghost with one punch. However, Hugh found that the punch did not have the effect he expected. The female ghost was in pain, but it was far less than his own pain. Moreover, when he just hit the female ghost, the spiritual energy suddenly dissipated, making it impossible to cause any damage to its head. He couldn't break the female ghost's defense, which caused the conduction of spirituality ability to be obstructed. The female ghost doctor, still in the process of recovery, continued to eat intently. After Hugh threw this punch, he clearly felt that his spirituality was already exhausted. Illuminating only 1% of the spirituality ability was completely insufficient. If you want to get rid of the female ghost, relying solely on the power of your fists is ultimately limited. It seems that you must resort to weapons. But can ordinary weapons conduct spirituality? At this moment, Dennis interrupted Hugh's thoughts. "Let me touch your thigh a little longer when you're done. I haven't lit up spirituality yet." Hugh did not pay attention to him. Speaking of weapons that can break through defenses, he suddenly recalled the scalpel dropped on the ground by the female ghost doctor just now. Hugh picked it up without hesitation. The touch was very cold, like a piece of polar black iron ice, filled with violent negative emotions. Hugh was secretly delighted. This scalpel is perfect for me. It's as if it was custom made for me. This is a psychiatric hospital that turns humans into ghosts. All the patients inside have been transformed into various ghostly creatures. And the mastermind behind all this is the gentle and beautiful female doctor. But during the years of transformation experiments, she was also infected by the evil power and became a ghost, thus losing her humanity and turning into a killing monster. At this moment, the female doctor is consuming a human. Hugh, who has become the spirit master, suddenly charges towards her. He, however, is unable to cause any harm to her. Hugh looks at the scalpel dropped by the female doctor. Just now, she used this knife to slice through people as easily as cutting tofu. It can surely break through her defenses as well. Hugh picked up the scalpel. At the moment of touching the knife, a surge of volatile negative energy swept over. It contained countless acts of killing, hatred, resentment, and other negative emotions, continually surging into Hugh's spirituality, as if to infect him and turn him into a monster. But Hugh's spirituality, after experiencing dozens of deaths, was already filled with endless pain and darkness. Therefore, this negative energy did not overwhelm him. Instead, it gave him a sense of familiarity. Suddenly, countless fragmented memories flooded Hugh's mind. One humanoid grotesque monster was tied to the operating table. A wildly savage scalpel continuously cut into them. At that moment, Hugh understood. The female ghost doctor relied on this scalpel to transform normal humans into ghosts. In other words, the real ghost is actually the scalpel. But the female ghost doctor was only turned into a ghost under the influence of the scalpel. Hugh was secretly pleased. With this scalpel, he could truly kill the female doctor. He immediately swung the scalpel harshly towards the female doctor's neck. A flash of silver light passed. A crisp metallic collision sound was heard. The female doctor's neck was like steel, completely unscathed. Hugh looked stunned. The scalpel could clearly cut through countless ghosts. Yet it couldn't break through the female ghost doctor's defense to cause harm. Suddenly, an idea flashed through Hugh's mind. Could it be because of spirituality? The scalpel needs to be driven by spirituality. And now my spirituality is exhausted, which is why it cannot exert its true power. Hugh was helpless. It was impossible to kill the ghost in a short time. He could only leave for now. He pulled up his good brother Dennis and turned around to run. Otherwise, they would not be able to escape. 2.5 minutes later, after finishing eating, Roger's female doctor looked flustered, murmuring continuously, "Where is my knife?" And Hugh and his group arrived at a deserted hall. Activating spirituality made his vision exceptionally keen, even granting him the ability to see through objects. At this moment, he noticed a colleague hiding behind the stone pillar. Although they had fled early, they did not know the way forward. They could only stay in place and wait for Hugh. Seeing that Hugh had caught up, they went forward to seek refuge. They hoped Hugh could lead them out. It turned out that there were 4 doors around the hall. They all looked very eerie and mysterious. Hugh's approach was simple and crude. Try each door one by one. He would eventually find a way out. Dennis and the others were momentarily stunned in this race against time within the mysterious realm. But Hugh paid no attention and walked straight towards the door on the west side. Dennis took Hugh as his backbone. Without any hesitation, he followed. The remaining 2 had no choice. Not knowing the way to safety, they could only helplessly follow Hugh. At that moment, a strange sound echoed behind them. Something seemed to be scurrying across the ceiling. It was the female ghost doctor who swiftly caught up. The crowd was instantly terrified. Prince and Roger's stamina should be able to last another 2.5 minutes. How did she catch up so quickly? However, Hugh keenly discovered that it was highly likely because they had stolen the female ghost doctor's scalpel, disrupting her feeding speed and killing pattern. He quickly arrived at the western gate. Without a moment's hesitation, he pushed the gate open. Every second counted now. It was a race against time. He had to speed up and escape. Inside the gate was a staircase leading to the upper floors. Everyone was frantically running upwards, but Hugh was the fastest. Having activated spirituality, his nerve reactions were sharp. His control over his body greatly increased. He burst out with astonishing power and sprinted forward. At that moment, the female doctor burst through the door and rushed in. Its speed far surpasses that of humans, easily catching up with the group. Its jagged mouth roars hoarsely, "Return my knife! Return it to me!" At this moment, it is hanging upside down from the ceiling, not directly preying on the person running at the back, but rather observing the surroundings as if searching for prey. Then the female doctor swiftly leaps forward, completely ignoring the people running behind and rushing directly toward Hugh. The group immediately halts their escape upwards, paralyzed by the fearsome presence of the female doctor. Only his good brother Dennis shouted at Hugh, "The female ghost is coming up! Run quickly!" But Hugh's speed was no match for the female doctor. In an instant, he was caught up by her. The female ghost twisted her body and quickly rushed forward. The unresponsive Hugh was directly tackled to the ground. "It's over. There's no escape." The female doctor opened her serrated bloody mouth wide and suddenly bit down on Hugh's neck. She even gave him a warm hug. Hugh died. Sheeman failed to escape. In the next second, Hugh was reborn and went through the previous experience again. After becoming a spirit master, he gained the ability to make his enemies feel pain. Additionally, he had a knife that could cut through countless eerie things. The two were simply a perfect match. The scalpel could break defenses, and then the pain ability could be used to kill. It was too perfect. This way he could kill all the ghosts in the future. Then he can go home to find his wife and take revenge. "Wife, you must wait for me to come back and repay you properly." The man was secretly touching the nurse's black stockings just a second ago. In the next second, the nurse had him pinned against the wall. "You've been touching for so long. It must be very comfortable. You have to take responsibility for me." Just because the man was caught secretly touching a thigh and refused to admit it. He even turned around and beat up the female nurse. Being heartless, he turned around and ran away. It turns out that the nurse was a ghost in the mental hospital. Hugh relied on touching thighs to finally light up spirituality and awaken as a spirit master, but ran into a dead end while trying to escape. In the end, he couldn't escape the pursuit of the female ghost nurse. After being reborn, he headed for the door to the north this time. Behind the door was an elevator. Fortunately, it still worked. However, the elevator's startup speed was too slow. Seeing that the female ghost nurse was about to catch up, Hugh frantically pressed the close button, hoping the elevator would close faster. But just as the elevator was about to close, a large white hand reached out from outside and blocked the elevator door. Immediately, Hugh was enveloped by the large hand. This time, he didn't escape again. It seems the northern door is also a dead end. In the next second, Hugh died. The third time, it was the southern door. Inside was a chaotic operating room. Various medical supplies were scattered everywhere. Not only was there no other escape route, but he was also chased by the female ghost doctor. Hugh was cornered against the wall by her, not daring to move. The female doctor stared at Hugh with a look that said, "I've got you." The next second, Hugh died again. Reincarnating once more, only the door to the east remained. If there's no way out behind this door this time, I will have to give up the scalpel. Fortunately, the east path was indeed the way out. Hugh was thinking of a strategy. Although the female doctor's speed far surpasses mine, I can use Death Rewind to predict her attack trajectory. In a sense, if used properly, Death Rewind is equivalent to foreseeing the future after being reborn. Hugh quickly walked through the corridor looking for the exit. He still had an impression of this place. When he previously wandered around the psychiatric hospital, he remembered that there was a security passage to the left ahead. But in the next second, a tuft of black hair attacked Hugh from behind, encircling his head completely. Hugh died again. After experiencing death 23 times, Hugh was infinitely close to the safe passage. Next time he would certainly make it. Reborn once more, coming into the hall, Hugh held nothing back. He directly led everyone to the door to the east. They also followed Hugh as their backbone. Not long after everyone entered the east door, they heard the screams of the female doctor behind them. The ceiling was also shaking violently. Amid their terrified screams, the female doctor appeared on the ceiling. Everyone frantically pushed and ran, fearing they would be the last. However, the female doctor directly ignored them. It went straight towards Hugh, who was holding the scalpel. At this moment, Hugh was running frantically without looking back. He was already well aware of the female doctor's attack. His good brother Dennis was instantly shocked. However, he hadn't finished speaking. The scene before him left him stunned. He saw that it was as if Hugh had eyes on his back. He just slightly turned his head and precisely dodged the attack from the female physician's hand, as if he had foreseen it in advance. The female physician looked shocked. How did he know the direction of my attack from behind? Hugh looked at the female physician and sneered. How could your attacks escape the prophecy of someone like me? The man is an immortal prophet who can infinitely reincarnate. At this moment, he is being hunted by a female ghost physician because he can foresee the correct escape routes and even accurately predict the attack trajectories of the female physician. He only needs to tilt his head slightly to easily avoid a fatal blow. The female ghost doctor suddenly froze. How is this possible? Even if it were a spirit master, it would be impossible to evade my attack so easily. Dennis, standing nearby, was dumbfounded. Hugh is really incredible, being able to evade an attack from behind so precisely. Hugh let out a cold laugh. He ignored them and continued running deeper into the corridor. Every second was a matter of life and death now. He had to seize the time to escape. The female doctor, regaining her senses, immediately launched herself forward. Endless hatred surged like a ferocious evil ghost, but Hugh crouched down again to dodge. These attacks were all within his expectations. Then came the third strike. The fourth strike. The female ghost doctor's large hand transformed into afterimages, striking continuously. But Hugh was always able to make the most precise response at the most critical moment. During this time, he experienced several death resets. With his reaction speed enhanced after unlocking spirituality, he confidently dodged each attack, narrowly but successfully avoiding danger. This scene made his good friend Dennis admire him immensely and cheer wildly for Hugh. Go Hugh, keep going, keep going! Hugh's repeated dodging made the female doctor extremely angry. She felt as if she was being played with. Its eyes immediately began to glow red. It pounced directly from the ceiling. The entire ground started to shake. The female doctor resembled a huge humanoid female spider. It opened its bloody maw and lunged towards Hugh. Just as it was about to catch up, Hugh suddenly stumbled. It was as if he had tripped over something. His body lost balance and lurched forward. Hugh fell without any chance to avoid it. Earlier, he had anticipated and dodged all attacks. But what to do about this attack? The female ghost doctor in front of him was about to rush forward. But Hugh did not stop running. He turned and rolled towards the hallway on the left. He was about to reach the safety passage. He needed to try a few more times. The female ghost doctor suddenly punched a big hole. If Hugh hadn't dodged in time, he would have turned into a puddle of mud. The female doctor who missed again felt an unprecedented sense of humiliation. She stared at Hugh with increasing ferocity. The three bystanders watching the drama were all dumbfounded, feeling a sense of dizziness. Hugh easily dodged the female ghost's attack. Dennis was envious. Is this what a spirit master is? It's simply amazing. I also want to be like Hugh. However, what they did not know is that Hugh managed to achieve these incredible skills only after dying a total of 23 times. The female ghost doctor turned around and continued to chase Hugh. Hugh finally saw the sign emitting a green glow. This was his first time reaching this place. He knew he would have to die a few more times to figure out how to evade. Although he didn't know if it was safe behind the emergency exit, it was currently the only way out. But at that moment, Hugh noticed something was wrong. After entering the green channel, the female ghost suddenly stopped. Even though Hugh was right in front of her, she didn't dare to take another step forward. The whole ghost was trembling. It was unwilling to stop there, yet it didn't dare to move forward. It was both angry and scared. 2.5 seconds later, the terrified female doctor kept retreating. She let out a piercing scream and turned to run. Hugh was completely bewildered. What is she afraid of? Is she afraid of me? Or is she afraid of what might be behind the door? The man was heartlessly ruthless, yet he was pinned against the wall by the female nurse. It was just because he was caught stealthily touching her thigh. Not wanting to take responsibility, he turned tail and ran, explaining as he went. Touching the thigh is just to ignite spirituality and become a spirit master. However, the female doctor didn't listen to his excuses at all. Holding a scalpel, she chased after him. Thus began an endless pursuit and escape between the two. But Hugh repeatedly avoided capture through death respawns. The female doctor pursued relentlessly, but couldn't capture Hugh. She knelt humbly in front of Hugh. "Please don't leave. Will you stay with me?" Hugh was indifferent to this, because all he could think about was his wife alone at home. The heartbroken female ghost doctor turned and ran away. She ran headlong into Dennis, who was watching the scene. A ball of flesh hit his face directly, distorting his features. The female doctor bypassed the three and fled directly. Despite her hatred, she did not attack anyone. At this moment, Dennis was dumbfounded. He complained to Hugh. "Hugh, someone just body-checked me. I want to report her." The two spectators were still in a daze. Just moments ago, they were fleeing for their lives. They didn't expect to suddenly become safe, and couldn't help but feel a sense of joy. "Good buddy," Dennis asked with concern. "Are you all right? How did that ghost suddenly run away?" Hugh shook his head, indicating that he was fine. He then began to analyze seriously, according to the normal plot inference. After exiting through the emergency exit, there is a way to survive. However, Dennis was puzzled. "But what?" "Hugh, there's no ghost chasing us right now." Hugh pointed to the main door's emergency exit sign and said seriously. The female doctor saw the sign and fled, indicating that this might not be a real emergency exit. Moreover, it is highly likely that behind the door lurks a ghost that even she fears. The area behind the door is engulfed in darkness, exuding an eerie aura, like a giant abyssal mouth ready to devour humans. While Hugh was pondering, the two spectators ran over and saw the emergency exit. "Hugh, why aren't you leaving? Is there something wrong with this exit?" Seeing that Hugh did not move, although they wanted to escape quickly, they were not foolish enough to go ahead and scout the way. "Let's take a break before moving on," said Hugh, and then he pulled Dennis to sit down. He closed his eyes to rest. The most important thing right now is to recover spirituality. Even the female doctor was scared away. So, it is necessary to stay in the best condition before exploring the path again. Everyone had no choice but to rest on the spot. From the moment the ghost appeared until now, they had been running away. Their physical strength had long been severely exhausted. They indeed needed to regain their strength. 2.5 minutes later, Hugh suddenly opened his eyes. He sprang up from the ground in an instant. As a spirit master, his recovery speed was more than 1,000 times faster than ordinary people. The sudden movement startled the three of them. "We had just sat down not long ago. Hugh, have you already recovered?" Hugh simply said, "Let's go!" Then he walked towards the emergency exit. Out. Hugh finally escaped from the Erie Psychiatric Hospital. Just now, after resting for 2.5 hours, Hugh finally recovered his spirituality. He led Dennis and others towards the dark passage. He walked very slowly, constantly paying attention to the surroundings. What exactly is behind this emergency exit? It actually made the terrifying female ghost doctor flee in panic. Hugh reached towards the walls on both sides to guard against any hidden danger that might suddenly arise. As everyone continued to go deeper, it became so quiet that only the sound of footsteps remained. Behind them, Dennis and the others were drenched in cold sweat, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. There was an unshakable fear in their eyes, and they didn't even dare to take a deep breath. But so far, nothing has happened. The more this continued, the more uneasy Hugh felt. The female doctor couldn't have let us go for no reason. There must be some danger hidden here. Could the real danger be behind the door? Finally, they arrived in front of the door. Looking from the outside, it was pitch black behind the door, and nothing could be seen. Hugh frantically shifted his perception. However, as soon as his perception penetrated to the other side of the door, it disappeared as if sinking into the sea. Hugh's hand, poised to open the door, stopped midair. At this moment, he hesitated. The world behind the door was incredibly bizarre. He had no idea what dangers might be waiting. But he still decided to open the door. Rather than staying here and being killed by the female doctor, it was better to explore the world beyond the door. He pushed open the door. It was empty inside. A pitch-black silence pervaded. Even the light was devoured. Dennis peeked in.
Hugh, is there really a way out in here? There won't be any danger, right?
Hugh responded calmly.
Even if there's danger, we must proceed.
He hesitated not at all and directly stepped through the door. Inside, it was like the giant maw of an abyss, slowly swallowing his silhouette. Darkness. Pitch-black darkness. Here, one couldn't see anything at all. Dennis and the others around me also disappeared. I don't know if they followed. Even more eerie is that the previously clear footsteps can no longer be heard. It is a dead silence. Hugh tried to call out to Dennis and the others. He clearly felt his vocal cords vibrating. But he couldn't hear any sound. He turned to look back. The door behind him had also disappeared. Hugh could only feel that he was still alive. He had no sensation from any of his five senses. It was as if his entire being had been swallowed by darkness. In the endless darkness, Hugh could only keep moving forward. At this moment, he didn't even know which direction was forward. But he could only keep walking. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 10 minutes. Half an hour. The sense of time was gradually swallowed by the darkness. But ahead remained a deathly silence. It was as if this road had no end. This endless loneliness and darkness would have already driven an ordinary person to collapse in madness. But it didn't affect Hugh at all, because his heart was even darker than this road. Just when Hugh thought he would be trapped in the darkness, a ray of light suddenly appeared before his eyes. A layer of blurred shadow came into view. Then the light gradually expanded. The darkness seemed to recede like a tide. Familiar scenes around him continued to appear. Hugh was stunned. Because he made it out. Yes, Hugh had escaped from the mental hospital. At this moment, he found himself standing in the middle of the road. On both sides, there were various beautifully landscaped green belts. It was the tree-lined avenue leading to White Willow Academy. My wife kills me 1,000 times. I treat my wife like a first love. The first thing Hugh wanted to do after escaping the mysterious realm was to return to his wife. Just now, after walking in the endless darkness for 2.5 hours, Hugh finally escaped from the eerie psychiatric hospital. Looking back, Dennis and the other two who had just vanished also emerged from the mysterious realm. At this moment, they were all panting heavily. Good brother Dennis was overjoyed.
Great, Hugh, we finally escaped the mysterious realm.
The other two people were filled with disbelief and ecstatic joy at having survived.
Did we really just escape like this?
Quickly, without any hesitation, the two of them ran towards a crowded place. Dennis suggested,
Hugh, let's leave quickly too. What if the female doctor comes running out from inside?
Hugh frowned. He felt that something was off. He carefully examined his surroundings. Where exactly was this place? At that moment, he was shocked to discover that there were no eerie traces around him. The mysterious psychiatric hospital had vanished. When he arrived here in the morning, he could clearly see the psychiatric hospital and the sales office overlapping each other. Now, only White Willow Academy remained. The most eerie thing is, why did the departure go so smoothly? No danger occurred. Even the female ghost doctor was scared away from the safe passage. They couldn't believe that they actually made it through safely. Could it be that the female ghost doctor is restricted by some reason and cannot leave the mental hospital? So, when she saw the safe passage, she was scared away. Dennis came over and interrupted Hugh's thoughts.
Hugh, let's go back quickly. Today's events have really exhausted me.
We have to go to work tomorrow. How about taking a day off and resting tomorrow? Hugh looked at Dennis in shock, who had just experienced a life-and-death escape. This guy is still thinking about work. At that moment, Hugh discovered something extremely terrifying. They were gone. All the ghosts were gone. At this moment, Hugh was completely panicked. He quickly looked around. What on earth was happening? There used to be countless ferocious and terrifying ghosts spreading all over the streets. But now the streets were actually empty. Not a single one could be seen. All the ghosts had disappeared. Hugh ran out anxiously. Dennis was completely puzzled.
Hugh, what's wrong with you?
Hugh did not respond. He was frantically running around and muttering to himself.
No, you can't disappear.
He seemed utterly mad. I can accept escaping safely. I can accept the mysterious disappearance of the mental hospital. But the only thing I cannot accept is that all the ghosts have disappeared. If they have all disappeared, how can I seek revenge? Especially my dearest wife, you absolutely cannot disappear. Hugh rushed into the street to stop a car with his body. Dennis urgently shouted,
Hugh, what are you doing? Get back quickly. It's dangerous there.
However, Hugh was minding his own business, trying to hail a cab in the heavy traffic. He was eager to get home to see if his wife was still there. The whole world can disappear, but not you. You can only die in my hands. How can I live without you? You must wait for me at home. This is a sinister and bizarre world, and humans are the outliers. Hugh, who just escaped from the deathly silent mysterious realm. He discovered that the ghosts all over the streets had actually disappeared. He anxiously searched everywhere, but found nothing. He then went to the street and hailed a taxi. After Hugh got into the car, he hurriedly urged the driver to go straight to the rental house. After getting in the car, he looked panicked. His whole body couldn't stop trembling. He kept muttering,
You can't leave.
Facing the ghost Hugh, he could remain calm. Even the ferocious and terrifying evil ghost never made him afraid. But at this moment, he showed a look of terror. He was afraid his wife would suddenly disappear. 10 minutes later, the taxi arrived at the entrance of the community where Hugh lived. Seeing that he was about to reach home, Hugh didn't hesitate for a moment. He burst out of the car and ran towards his rental unit. The driver shouted,
You haven't paid yet.
But the driver didn't pursue the matter. Seeing Hugh, the driver guessed that his wife had probably run off with someone else.
He's a pitiable man indeed.
The driver sighed and then drove away. Hugh ran all the way. The neighborhood is just like the outside world. He couldn't see any ghosts. At this moment, his mental state became increasingly abnormal. The terror inside him kept intensifying. He ran upstairs like a madman. Deep within his spirituality, he kept roaring. The whole world can disappear, except for you. Hugh pushed the door open and dashed into the house. Inside, it was empty with no trace of his wife. Hugh shouted in a state of collapse.
Wife, where are you? Come out quickly. I can see you.
He searched frantically. The living room was empty. Hugh's mental state was completely breaking down. Suddenly, his mind went blank. He collapsed to the ground in despair. You killed me 18 times. Without you, how will I live for the rest of my life? Who will make me breakfast? Without you, the whole world is gray. 2.5 hours later, Hugh's eyes were lifeless. He seemed like a walking corpse. He had died dozens of times. He had been driven mad by his wife as well. He had broken down. But in the end, he always survived. Madness and hatred pulled his sanity back from the edge of hell. The obsession with killing his wife sustained him. He wanted to take revenge on all the ghosts in the world, making them feel his pain. That was the meaning of Hugh's existence. Now the ghosts suddenly disappeared. What will he do with all his hatred? What is the meaning of living now? Hugh lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling for the entire night. He seemed to have lost his soul, listless and with a vacant stare. The next morning, his good brother Dennis called. On the other end of the line, the tone was anxious.
Hugh, quickly check the news. Reports say White Willow Academy is on fire.
Hearing about what happened yesterday, Hugh regained his composure. He suddenly sat up in bed and picked up his phone to search for news information. The news content directly stunned him. White Willow Academy. The list of deaths is as follows: Prince, Roger, Hugh, Dennis. He discovered that he was shockingly on the death list. Hugh returned to his former state. He couldn't help but start trembling. Suddenly burst into a fit of mad laughter. I, who possessed the ability to respawn from death, actually died. How interesting. In other words, the ghosts have not disappeared. They are just hiding and playing hide-and-seek with me. Even this world without ghosts is itself an illusion created by the ghosts. Suddenly Hugh's gaze became gentle. I knew you hadn't disappeared. My dearest wife, how could I bear to let you leave?
The man has a wife as gentle as water.
She wants to kill him 18 times a day. Just on this day, he discovered his wife had suddenly disappeared. Without the nurturing of his wife, Hugh lost the meaning of life. He lived as if he were a walking corpse. The next day, a colleague sent a message. He discovered that he, who had the ability to rewind death, actually appeared on the death list. Hugh, who lost his wife, found new hope in life. It turned out that the ghost had not disappeared. They were just playing hide and seek with themselves. Just at that moment, a message popped up in the work group chat.
Manager Roger at Hugh, why haven't you come to work yet?
Immediately following, a barrage of messages ensued, urging Hugh to hurry up and come to work. Looking at this scene on the phone, Hugh couldn't help but laugh out loud. It felt so amusing. He saw with his own eyes that Roger was killed by the female ghost doctor. Clearly, even after dying, he still urges people to go to work. It seems that Roger has become a capitalist ghost after his death. Hugh is eager to go to the company for the first time. Let's see what interesting things the other party can bring. At this moment, red liquid appeared on the phone. As Roger kept urging, a row of bloody words actually appeared on the screen. Do you think that by staying silent, I won't know where you are? Immediately, the blood letters started to gather together, forming a pool of blood. It slowly began to boil and bubble out like boiling water. The next second, the blood gushed out from the phone, coagulating into a gigantic eyeball. It resembled a fierce eyeball, ghost, with bloodshot veins staring directly at Hugh. Roger's eerie voice actually came from the eyeball.
Get over here to work immediately.
Hugh grabbed the eyeball.
I can go to work. But don't take up my phone's memory.
With that, Hugh pulled it off the phone. The eyeballs dissolved into the air like foam. Is this all an illusion? Then go to the company and see what interesting things might happen. Immediately, Hugh set off again on his bicycle. Arriving at White Willow Academy, Hugh was surprised to find the entire sales office had been burned black by a fire. But Hugh didn't care. He directly crossed the police line and went inside. Inside, it was also severely burned. The smell of burning could still be smelled. All the deceased colleagues had started working. At that moment, Faye discovered Hugh. She went up to greet him.
You came quite early today.
Hugh took the opportunity to walk up. He reached out to test Faye's large ball.
Is this real?
The feeling upon touching it was warm, full, and elastic. Her proud parts were caressed. Faye blushed shyly. Hugh sneered. Then he pushed her away. As expected, it was an illusion. Because he vividly remembered Faye being so full. It was all because of 2 pieces of silicone. He was killed once because of it. Hugh walked straight to the 2nd floor. He saw his good brother Dennis rushing out.
Hugh, were you also dragged here to work? No, I came to the company because I like working. Where is Roger?
Dennis was taken aback, then immediately reacted. He pointed inside and said,
He is in the office.
Hugh looked around, his expression gradually becoming serious. Unexpectedly, the colleagues he remembered as dead were still working. Capital Ghost even exploits the labor of the dead. This is a world where capital ghosts run rampant. Everyone's labor is exploited by capital. In life, you are a worker. In death, you are a working ghost. You can't escape a lifetime of being a worker. Every day, they will urge you to hurry up and come to work. Otherwise, they will threaten you by turning into a ghost. You arrived at the company after the fire. At this time, all the deceased colleagues were working at their posts, exactly as they were when alive. Just as Hugh was about to look for Roger. In the manager's office, before seeing him, his voice was heard.
"Why are you just coming to work now?"
Immediately, he appeared out of nowhere and pointed at Hugh's nose, cursing him.
"Why didn't you reply when I mentioned you in the group? Do you know the consequences are very serious?"
Hugh calmly said.
"When will my commission be paid?"
Roger, furious, slammed the table. "With you slacking off at work like this, you still have the nerve to talk to me about commissions? It's already good that I haven't fired you." Hugh continued to look at him indifferently. "Even in death, you are still so repugnant." As soon as the words were spoken, Roger became furious. Pointing at Hugh, he started to curse again. "Who are you cursing? Who's dead, you say? Can you even speak properly? I'm alive and well. It's you who's dead." His mouth was like a fountain, spewing out curses that resounded throughout the entire office. It drew colleagues away from their work to watch the commotion. In the next second, Hugh suddenly rushed forward. A flash of silver light streaked by. The entire world suddenly fell silent. Hugh held a silver scalpel. It was directly stabbed into Roger's fat neck. Roger looked terrified, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't make any sound. A sharp scalpel made a swift cut, and blood gushed from Roger's neck like a fountain. Roger's fat body fell down accordingly, unable to move any more. Hugh's indifferent eyes stared straight at Roger. Then he gave an evil smile.
"Isn't this just death?"
Just at that moment, a strange feeling came over. The colleagues in the office suddenly froze, as if controlled by something. They stood stiffly upright. Even my good buddy Dennis was the same. His face was as pale and indifferent as a ghost. Hugh tried to wake Dennis up.
"Dennis, wake up!"
In the next second, Dennis's entire face started to twist bizarrely. His eyeballs bulged out suddenly. Everyone's bodies also underwent horrific mutations. They kept swelling and growing larger, transforming from human shapes into various terrifying and grotesque monsters. Watching the scene in front of him, Hugh thought to himself, could this be a transformation? Without hesitation, he pulled out a scalpel to gather strength. He certainly wouldn't foolishly wait for the ghost to complete its transformation. He needed to interrupt the spellcasting on the other side ahead of time. With that, he charged forward. Being a spirit master, his explosive power was more than 10 times that of an ordinary person. Hugh went all out. Under the influence of spirituality, he unleashed astonishing speed and attack power, continually flickering among the crowd. The ghost that was still transforming had its neck slit. Its heart was hollowed out. In an instant, Hugh moved around the entire office area. All of his colleagues were killed by him. Hugh gazed at everything indifferently. Have you had enough fun? If you've had enough, come out. The corpses of the people suddenly began to melt. As if sinking into water, they disappeared. Even the company's sales office gradually shattered like glass. Behind the fragments was the security corridor of the psychiatric hospital. Dennis and the other two could be seen lying in the corridor, their bodies slumped. Their faces were twisted with fear. They continuously let out cries of pain from their mouths. Sure enough, everything before was an illusion. Hugh and the others had not yet escaped from the mental hospital. These are 2 ordinary lumps of silicone. However, they saved the man's life. Because Hugh had just touched his colleague's private parts. It felt soft, smooth, warm, and full to the touch. At this moment, Hugh realized something was wrong. Faye's chest was clearly silicone. It couldn't possibly be this soft. It seems that everything in front of him was an illusion. Immediately afterward, Hugh killed all his colleagues with a single knife. The sales office also shattered and collapsed as a result. The next second, Hugh found Dennis and the other two lying on the ground in a disordered manner. It turned out he was still in the safe passage of the psychiatric hospital. Hugh slowly turned to look deep into the passage. A strange and cold aura continuously seeped out from within, as if a fierce evil ghost was about to emerge. Looking at the scene in front of him, Hugh calmly said,
"A dream? It seems this is your ability."
Suddenly, a few eyeball ghosts emerged from inside. The next second, a gigantic ghost eye suddenly appeared from the darkness, its entire body wrapped in scarlet smoke, constantly churning. Below it were countless eerie heads. They were extremely ferocious and evil. Ghost Eye stared intently at Hugh and emitted a deep, hoarse, eerie voice.
"Human, how did you see through my dream?"
Hugh sneered.
"You know humans well. The dream was also very realistic."
"Unfortunately, you don't understand silicone. The texture is too soft when squeezed." Ghost Eye was confused and didn't understand. What silicone? What texture? Why don't you feel fear in your dreams? Hugh gave a slight,
"Huh? It seems you rely on fear to kill. The more fear, the faster one dies."
No wonder I appear on the death list. Working even after death is indeed very frightening. But the worst thing you did was create a world without ghosts. All the ghosts disappeared. You made me lose my wife. Is this something a ghost like you should be doing? But thanks to you deliberately creating eerie events, it rekindled my hope and helped me see through the illusion." Ghost Eye did not speak. He stared intently at the human before him, as if trying to deeply remember his appearance. A human without fear. I will remember you. Subsequently, the Ghost Eye gradually faded away. Slowly, it disappeared. Hugh also lowered his guard. The eeriness finally dissipated. It is this dream-controlling ghost that scared away the female ghost doctor. If I'm not mistaken, it's the female doctor who got infected by the scalpel. Probably the weakest ghost in this mental hospital. There is a qualitative difference between being infected and being transformed. Hugh came to his good friend Dennis's side. At this moment, Dennis was choking his own neck tightly. The veins bulged, making him look very ferocious. Hugh reached out to check for breathing and confirmed that Dennis had already stopped breathing. He remembered the previous times when Dennis had sincerely treated him. Every time there was a difficulty, he would lend a helping hand. Hugh decided to die and use a death rollback to save Dennis's life. Immediately, he took out a scalpel and slashed it across his own neck. The next second, everyone returned to the front of the emergency exit. Surprisingly, Ghost's ability is to control dreams. So the best solution is to stay awake. Afterward, they still arrived at the tree-lined avenue. They were in a dream again. Hugh made a throat-slashing gesture once again. It seems inevitable to enter the ghost's dream. To pass the test, Dennis will have to overcome his fears by himself. He then introduced to everyone that there is a ghost in the safe passage. It will create various bizarre events, but everything is fake. Hugh patted Dennis on the shoulder and said,
"Dennis, you must remember. As long as you overcome fear, you can survive.
If you encounter Faye in the illusion, you can take the opportunity to pinch her impressive parts. Faye is made of silicone. The feel of the real and the fake is different. That is the key to breaking the illusion." Dennis was momentarily stunned and said shyly,
But I've never touched the real one."
"It's all thanks to these two ordinary pieces of silicone." Hugh broke the fear illusion created by the ghost eye. But looking at his good brother Dennis strangling him in front of him, Hugh decided to revert to an earlier save point to rescue him. He even reminded Dennis that the ghosts inside were all illusions. As long as he overcame his fear, he could safely get out. Hugh tried several times. Although he could quickly get rid of the eerie dream, no matter how many times he reminded Dennis and the others, they were ultimately unable to overcome the fear in their dreams and ended up strangling themselves to death. After multiple deaths and resets, Hugh keenly realized that the dream was completely fabricated out of thin air by the ghost. Moreover, each person's dream is different. In other words, they can only rely on themselves to decipher their dreams. At this moment, Dennis tightly strangled his own neck. His face was filled with terror. He even began to twitch continuously. He was on the verge of suffocating. Hugh quickly pried open his hands, allowing him to breathe freely. Hugh pushed Dennis.
Wake up!
Dennis's face was still ashen, continually letting out painful groans, showing no signs of waking up. Hugh directly slapped Dennis, causing his head to hit the floor. Immediately, dozens of slaps followed. But no matter how much they hit Dennis, he didn't wake up. Hugh used his trump card. He kicked Dennis in the vital area. Dennis clutched his groin in pain. His whole body couldn't stop trembling. His face was full of pain, but he still didn't wake up. Hugh scratched his head.
Can't wake him up even like this? Looks like I'll have to use that trick.
Immediately, Hugh pulled out his scalpel. It glinted coldly as he walked towards Dennis. He raised his hand and swung the knife toward Dennis's leg. He directly stabbed it into his thigh, even resorting to using Hugh's pain ability, trying to overcome fear with the power of pain. Dennis's expression became more pained, continuously wailing internally, "Hugh, please spare me." But he just couldn't wake up. 2.5 seconds later, Dennis's head tilted to one side, completely losing all signs of life. This scene shocked Hugh. Even the power of agony was of no use. He desperately wanted to revive Dennis. "Dennis, what exactly can be done to save you?" Hugh decided to try one last method. If he still couldn't wake him, he would have to give up. He then slashed his own neck, causing rebirth once more. Hugh continuously pondered ways to save Dennis. "Hugh, last night I dreamed of a ghost pressing on me. And it was a beautiful woman in a white dress. The ghost pressing on me felt soft and incredibly comfortable. However, just when I was about to kiss her, the dream suddenly ended. When I get out, I must find a woman to thoroughly enjoy myself." Hugh was speechless. Even near death, still thinking about women. At that moment, Hugh suddenly thought of a good idea. Although Dennis was introverted and timid, his most distinctive feature was his extraordinary lewdness. Facing the female ghost doctor, he fearlessly touched her. Unable to escape the fear of the illusion, then use another, stronger instinctive emotion to overcome it. Immediately, Hugh told Dennis to turn on his phone and set the volume to maximum. Dennis was stunned for a moment.
"Hugh, what do you want to do?" "Play that movie of yours, Teacher's Private Lessons After School.
Dennis was instantly startled and embarrassed.
"Aw? Isn't this inappropriate?"
A teacher appeared in his mind, standing in the classroom. A voluptuous, juicy teacher was wearing a tight uniform. Her proud twin peaks were revealed in front, tightly wrapped by a black bra.
"Dennis, you made a mistake on this question. Stay behind, and the teacher will slowly tutor you.
When you find yourself in an illusion, you might as well take out the short video on your phone and turn the volume to the maximum. You will be able to break the illusion and escape." In order for his good brother to escape, Hugh thought of a special method in the mysterious realm. Dennis blushed with embarrassment and nervousness. He stuttered,
"Hugh, are you joking?"
"If you want to watch, you have to wait until we escape. Playing it out loud in public is no different from defecating on the street," Hugh said seriously.
"I'm not joking. This is to save your life. Release it immediately."
Dennis, seeing Hugh's serious expression, had no other choice but to take out his cherished movie collection from many years. When the BGM started playing, the eerie atmosphere dissipated quite a bit. Everyone couldn't help but feel curious to see what was inside. They saw a female teacher holding a ruler.
"Quick, lie down. You made a mistake on the problem. You're going to get a spanking,"
Hugh said carefully.
"Dennis, you have to watch intently. Immerse yourself fully in the character from the movie. Get excited about it."
When you enter the illusion later, no matter what happens, don't pay attention to it. Just close your eyes and fantasize about the upcoming plot. Dennis was overjoyed.
Don't worry, Hugh. When it comes to fantasizing about plots, I'm a pro.
Hugh said to the other two.
You both should also use what interests you the most to divert your attention and overcome fear.
But they don't have such obvious characteristics like Dennis. They also don't know what to do. They can only watch action movies with Dennis. From this, it can be seen that everyone might like different things. However, nobody has any objections to short films. As the plot of the short film continues to develop, the corridor fills with an ambiguous atmosphere. The sound of the beauty's heavy breathing and the slapping sound reach their ears. Everyone's heartbeat accelerates. Dennis gets more and more engrossed with the continuous visual and auditory stimulation. The fire of desire rages directly. The whole person is immersed in the roles of the short clips. I don't know how to do this problem. I still want you to teach me again. Let's change our position. 2.5 minutes later. Seeing Dennis was burning with desire, Hugh felt the time was right. It's about time. Dennis, let's go. Please remember, after entering, no matter what bizarre events you encounter, constantly remind yourself that they are all fake. Even if the dream feels extremely real, as long as you find a flaw and don't fear, you won't die. Seeing that the preparations are almost done, whether it succeeds or not is up to them. Subsequently, Hugh once again led everyone towards the depths of the passage. Entering the passage, Hugh quickly deciphered the dream and came out. He looked at the others. The other two colleagues, just like before, seemed to have encountered something terrifying in the dream. They died with expressions of fear on their faces. Hugh looked solemn. He hoped Dennis could make it through this time. To save him, Hugh had died and restarted over 10 times. He tried every possible way. All that could be done were these. The rest depends entirely on Dennis. Dennis appeared terrified, but there was also a lewd expression on his face. A firm, erect tent formed beneath him. He continuously tore his shirt to shreds. He even extended his lewd tongue, maniacally licking something. As expected of Dennis, even if it's a female ghost, he dares to go directly for it. At this moment, Hugh noticed a slight anomaly. He sensed it through spirituality. Unexpectedly, there were spirituality fluctuations in Dennis's body, who was crazily thrusting. Hugh was horrified. Could it be that Dennis was about to ignite spirituality? And it was happening while he was screwing a ghost. This is a captivating and action-packed film. Men can rely on her to break through the eerie illusions. Even during the process of thrusting, he breaks through to become a spirit master. Immersed in the dream, Dennis thoroughly enjoyed it. He had a lecherous and satisfied expression on his face. After being single for 20 years, he finally had a pleasurable experience in his dream. The next second, he suddenly opened his eyes. His waist suddenly exerted force, and he sprang up from the ground. He shouted,
"Don't run! I'll let you enjoy it one more time."
He immediately realized something was wrong. The classroom had just disappeared. They had also turned into Hugh Dennis. Turning to Hugh, he asked,
"Hugh, is this the emergency exit? Did I successfully escape?"
But Hugh did not respond to him. He was truly speechless about Dennis's escape journey. He then turned and walked towards the passage exit. Since Dennis had already escaped the dream, it was time to leave. Seeing that Hugh did not respond to him, Dennis suddenly assumed a defensive posture.
"Are you Hugh? Come here and let me pinch you."
Hugh raised his hand to push Dennis away.
"You've finally grown some brains, Dennis. Although not much."
To prove it wasn't an illusion, Hugh revealed some of Dennis's little secrets.
The allure of the white tiger. Business trip with the minister. The boss who got drunk. Avatar.
Dennis hurriedly rushed to stop Hugh.
"Hugh, stop talking. You actually peeked at my phone."
Hugh sidestepped to avoid him. Dennis stumbled and fell to the ground. He looked up. He saw both of his colleagues bleeding from their 7 orifices, as if they had experienced something extremely horrifying. Dennis was so frightened that he quickly retreated and collapsed to the ground.
Did Hugh and the others die in the dream?
Hugh responded calmly.
Yes.
Subsequently, they arrived at the exit door.
Dennis, let's go,
Hugh said as he slowly pushed open the door. The eerie asylum was finally coming to an end. The light from outside shone through, warmly illuminating both of them. As the light continued to dispel, the darkness receded like a tide, gradually revealing the scene of the real world. Hugh and the others appeared on the tree-lined avenue next to the company. Escaping from the mysterious realm, Dennis was filled with excitement after surviving the ordeal.
Great, Hugh, we finally made it out. Yeah, we really made it out.
Hugh looked up at the sky. He was quite certain they had escaped from the mysterious realm mental hospital, because he saw the streets filled with hideous and terrifying ghosts. Then he asked Dennis,
Did you activate the spirituality?
Dennis was stunned.
Spirituality?
Indeed, there was a strange feeling just now in the illusion. I seemed to have turned into Superman. Not only did my senses become sharper, but my strength also increased. Hugh wasn't surprised. After all, we touched thighs together before. It's easy to awaken spirituality. He even felt happy for Dennis. What ability did you awaken? Dennis perceived for a long time without any discovery. I can't perceive anything. Could it be that I have no abilities? Hugh was silent, because he himself didn't understand spirit masters either. Hugh, what is your ability? My ability is to foresee the future. I have a clear understanding of what will happen in the future. Dennis was stunned. What? Foresee the future? No wonder you knew which path was the safest in the mysterious realm. Hugh nodded. He wanted to obtain cultivation resources through the Spirit Master organization. Because his desire to become stronger was very intense, he had to raise his own value to obtain resources and quickly become powerful. Then seek revenge against the ghosts. Eliminate all the ghosts, especially my dearest wife. I will certainly repay you well. This is a voluptuous and charming female teacher. Although she doesn't know how to teach, she understands how to nurture people. Dennis finally escaped the illusion through the teacher. Immediately, he followed Hugh out of the psychiatric hospital. Looking at the sky full of ghosts, Hugh was sure that this time they had really escaped. He even claimed to have awakened the ability of foresight.
I have already seen the future.
Because Hugh wanted to gain the resources of the Spirit Master organization. Only by demonstrating the value of one's abilities can one obtain more resources. Hugh looked at the White Willow Academy in front of him. Clearly, he could sense a mental hospital embedded within the sales office, but he couldn't see a trace of it. Could it be because the mental hospital has merged into the real world, hence being obscured by the real scenery? Fortunately, this time it was just a ghost that created illusions and didn't have any offensive capabilities. If it were other ghosts guarding the door. Even though Hugh has the ability to rewind death, he would probably be trapped to death in the mental hospital. In the face of the absolutely powerful ghost, even being reborn 1,000 or 10,000 times would be futile. Hugh looked at Dennis, who had lit up spirituality and become a spirit master. He was completely unresponsive to the sky full of ghosts. Dennis, can you see the ghosts in the sky? Dennis was stunned. What ghosts? There is only a big moon in the sky. Hugh, did you see it wrong? I probably had an illusion. Mistook the crow for a ghost. Hugh couldn't help but wonder. Could lighting up spirituality still not allow him to see the ghost on the street? Is it because Dennis is too weak as a newly appointed spirit master? Or is it because even a spirit master can't see the ghost? Hugh hopes that there are others who can see the ghost. If there are others like him, he won't feel so lonely. At this moment, Dennis is also pondering his own thoughts. He hasn't awakened any abilities, while Hugh possesses the extraordinary ability to foresee the future. He felt both envious and jealous inwardly. He was afraid his brother would suffer, yet he was also afraid his brother would drive a Land Rover. This sentence perfectly reflects Dennis's psychology. Hugh, let's leave quickly. This place feels quite eerie. Hugh tilted his head and asked,
By the way, Dennis, how did you break the dream?
Dennis was suddenly startled. He stammered and said,
Just follow the method you mentioned, Hugh. Immerse myself completely into the movie.
Then why were you touching and kissing the air? Dennis immediately turned completely red. His face was full of shyness. Did I even make movements? Not only were there movements, but also soft moaning sounds. Dennis quickly interrupted.
Hugh, don't say any more. I beg you, don't say it anymore. This is too embarrassing.
I was just wondering if you haven't awakened your abilities. Was there any mistake in the illusion? So I asked you what you experienced. Then Hugh, you promised not to tell a third person. I can tell you the content of the dream. Immediately, Dennis said with a shy face.
Actually, it's nothing special.
After entering the illusion, I kept my eyes closed. All I could think about was the teacher's lecture. I kept hearing the sound of a girl panting softly near my ear. She kept tempting and provoking me. Later, the teacher suddenly became eerie, emanating a cold aura. Her voice also became terrifying as she continuously murmured,
"Stay with me."
Immediately, her hand reached out to me. It was as cold as that of a female ghost doctor, constantly exploring my body and igniting my desire. The man forcefully pinned the teacher against the wall. Unexpectedly, the ghost flipped him over and pinned him down, as if about to devour him in one bite. The ravenous man could not suppress his inner desire. Even though the other party was a ghost, he still wanted to proceed, to fulfill his 20-year-long wish of ending his singlehood. It turned out that Dennis was in a dream demon's illusion. At this moment, he imagined himself in a school classroom, being hugged by a creepy female teacher. Dennis felt as if his entire body was being touched by countless hands, constantly teasing him. Then I suddenly remembered that Hugh mentioned diverting attention. So I started to do it myself, Dennis said, blushing. But it was only a temporary measure to divert attention. Who knew the ghost's hand would also reach for my second brother? It continuously rubbed back and forth on my second brother's neck. At one point, it was about to spray out. Hugh was speechless. He knew Dennis was very lecherous. He didn't expect the imagery in the dream to be so wild. Then how did you respond? Then I kept fantasizing about the ambiguous atmosphere. The originally eerie vibe also changed. It became gentle and sweet, more capable of arousing desire. Suddenly, a pair of warm, soft hands touched me. It reached out to Dennis's second brother and caressed him. The voice also turned into Faye, Dennis's classmate. Not paying attention in class. You're going to be punished. Dennis was shocked and panicked. He didn't expect the teacher to suddenly turn into Faye. A pair of impressive breasts suddenly appeared before his eyes. The inexperienced Dennis couldn't handle such temptation. His nose bled uncontrollably. As Faye stood up, those enticing large breasts swayed up and down. Dennis's heartbeat accelerated, and his whole body became tense. Faye twisted her curvy hips in a short skirt. In front of Dennis, she painted an alluring and thrilling picture, continuously tempting him. Dennis, overwhelmed with desire, lunged directly at her. What man could withstand such a test? He grabbed Faye with both hands and pinned her against the wall. It was like a scene of a beast about to devour its prey. At this moment, Dennis suddenly remembered. Hugh said he could pinch her breasts to see if they were real. Immediately, he reached out his hand and touched them. He had been single for 20 years, and had never even touched a girl's hand. Unexpectedly, today he was able to touch a girl's chest. Dennis felt as if he had discovered a new continent. He had never experienced something so wonderful. As soon as he touched it, it felt soft and smooth. He felt as if he were in a sea of silky smooth jelly, soft, moist, and elastic. Dennis couldn't help but bring his mouth closer, wanting to kiss it, and see how it felt. Unexpectedly, Faye's teeth suddenly turned serrated. Dennis felt something was off when he kissed her. To Dennis's surprise, Faye suddenly became hideous and terrifying. Her originally small cherry mouth split to both sides, all the way to the roots of her ears. Dennis was so scared that he trembled and quickly retreated. They grabbed Dennis's hands. She turned around and pinned him against the wall. She extended her long tongue and continuously licked Dennis, as if she wanted to devour him. Dennis was already scared stiff. He thought to himself that he was definitely doomed. But on second thought, he realized he had been single for 20 years and had done nothing. If he were to just die like this, wouldn't it be too much of a waste? This is Faye we're talking about. Even if she's a ghost, I would still go for it. I'll fulfill my wish before dying. The ghost transformed. Faye looked at Dennis in horror. Who exactly is the ghost? Let go. Please let go. No. On that dark and windy night, a scene of unresolved human and ghostly emotions played out. Hugh covered his eyes, unable to look directly. No wonder the ghost eye didn't appear this time. It's probably afraid of Dennis, this ghostly genius. Dennis chuckled. Since we're all going to die anyway, why care if it's a person or a ghost? The most important thing in life is to have no regrets. Don't you agree, Hugh? The man was cabinet against the wall by the female ghost. Having been single for 20 years, his mind was already clouded by desire. He turned around and pinned the female ghost against the wall. Frightened, the female ghost burst into tears, begging for mercy.
No, please!
But he didn't care. He pulled off his clothes and started. After hearing about Dennis's escape from the dreamscape, Hugh couldn't bear to look directly. He turned around and walked away.
I'm going home to sleep first. Call me if there's anything.
Dennis was still terrified in the mysterious realm. All his colleagues were dead. He even encountered various ghosts. And you're still thinking about going home to sleep? Hugh looked calm.
What? Do you still want to wait here for the security administrator to come?
Dennis didn't know how to respond for a moment. He awkwardly scratched his head and laughed. Matters related to ghosts should be handled by a Taoist priest or a monk. We can't find them. Hugh spread his hands. No need to find anyone. Someone will come automatically. Since this world has ghosts and spirit masters, there must also be organizations specifically dealing with the mysterious realm. Otherwise, the world would have long been overrun by ghosts. Hugh then gave Dennis some instructions, telling him how to handle the situation if anyone came looking for them. The two of them aligned their stories and advanced to avoid any special situations from happening. Afterward, the two of them returned to their respective homes. After arriving home, Hugh saw his voluptuous and graceful wife.
Honey, you're back. Have you eaten? Would you like me to cook some noodles for you?
Seeing his wife as alluring and graceful as usual, Hugh was filled with joy. It felt really good to see his wife. He had already advanced his spirituality to become the legendary spirit master. He also obtained an incredibly sharp scalpel that had hunted countless ghosts. Now he finally had the strength for revenge. He answered with a smile.
Honey, I'm back.
His wife's expression changed instantly. Her eyes glowed with an eerie red light. Her gentle smile turned into a horrific grimace. Her voice also turned hoarse and low.
You can see me,
she said just as she finished speaking. A flash of silver turned into a lingering shadow and viciously slashed across his wife's fair neck. It was precisely the scalpel wielded by Hugh. During the journey home, his spirituality had already been restored. He had long been thinking of quickly taking revenge. Blood gushed from his wife's fragrant neck. His wife looked at Hugh in astonishment. I didn't expect that after being out for half a day, my husband would come back with such abilities. I saw the scalpel continuously stabbing into the wife's neck. At the same time, Hugh turned the pain capacity to the maximum. All his love for his wife turned into the scalpel, stabbing fiercely into her heart. The next second, Hugh lost consciousness. Immediately after, he opened his eyes and stood there in shock. What had just happened? How did I suddenly appear at the door of my house? Could it be that I died again? He, who possesses the ability to reset upon death, actually doesn't even know how his wife took action this time. Is this the true strength of his wife? Didn't expect that after igniting spirituality, the gap feels even larger. It seems there are differences among ghosts as well. Perhaps the gap is even larger than that between people. Hugh turned the lock. It seems revenge cannot be taken in the short term. Upon returning home again, he ignored his wife, who was striking coquettish poses beside him. Like a corporate drone working overtime until late at night, he used fatigue as an excuse to avoid fulfilling his marital duties. Hugh felt relieved that he did not go further into exploring the psychiatric hospital. The female doctor was just the weakest ghost in the mysterious realm, and she couldn't even handle herself. Not to mention there are other terrifying ghosts eyeing them covetously. Hugh had just awakened as a first-tier spirit master, and his strength was still very weak against ghosts. He decided to gather more information before making any plans. At this moment, somewhere in the city. This is a secret department unknown to the public. Global Anomalous Events Joint Investigation Bureau. In the meeting center of the Investigation Bureau, a group of people were sitting around a conference table, discussing something. At this moment, a distinguished middle-aged man was sitting at the head of the table. The director of the Investigation Bureau, Jose, was introducing a bizarre incident. I assume everyone has heard the news. Just 5 hours ago, a local real estate company, White Willow Academy, encountered a mysterious realm. The area of the mysterious realm is currently confined to the sales office. There are no signs of it spreading at the moment. These two people are the survivors who managed to escape. The man pinned the female ghost against the wall. Even though the other party's face was ferocious, he didn't let go. He used all his strength to release his desire. Because doing so can not only break the illusion, but also awaken the ability that men dream of. The escape of Hugh and another person from the mysterious realm attracted the attention of the Investigation Bureau. At this moment, Director Jose is presiding over a discussion meeting. He sent Sarah to investigate Hugh and his group. Confirm whether the two have advanced to Spirit Master and the level of spirituality contamination. Check if they can be recruited into the Investigation Bureau. Also, assess the danger level of the mysterious realm at White Willow Academy. The next morning, Hugh was awakened by a call from Dennis. At this moment, his wife was lying on top of him. An excited voice came from the other end of the phone.
Hugh, I know what my ability is now.
Hugh calmly asked.
What ability did you awaken? It'll give you a scare when I tell you. The reason you couldn't sense it yesterday is because it can only be activated after 11 o'clock. Moreover, it can last until 1 in the morning.
Hugh put on his clothes and asked back.
So what exactly is the ability?
Hugh, don't be jealous when I tell you. My ability is the dream of all men in the world. You have no idea. I experimented for half the night last night. It was simply... Hugh impatiently hung up the phone. He didn't want to listen to Dennis ramble on for a long time without mentioning any capabilities. Immediately, the phone rang again. It was Dennis calling.
If you keep talking so much nonsense, I'll block you,
Dennis said indignantly. My ability is that after 11 o'clock, I become more handsome. My physical fitness improves significantly, and I am covered in muscles. Hugh responded calmly.
Is that all? Then I'll block you,
Dennis hurriedly shouted.
No. I haven't finished yet. The best part is still to come.
Improvement in physical fitness is just an incidental appearance. What he truly enhances is the sexual ability that all men desire. You have no idea how strong it is. Yesterday's test was absolutely astounding. It could hold a 200-pound weight. Hugh decisively hung up the phone. What kind of ability is this? Isn't he just an action movie actor? Actually, I should have thought of it earlier. Spirit Master's ability is an expression of spirituality. A person who relies on manipulating ghosts to ignite spirituality. What kind of legitimate ability could they awaken? As for why they can only use their ability at 11 o'clock. It's probably also because Dennis practices late every night. At the same time, a supercar sped into Hugh's neighborhood. A pair of jade-like feet in red stockings stepped out of the car. It was the Sarah duo from the Investigation Bureau. Did you hear their conversation? Assistant Brian nodded. From their conversation, he learned, they were all ordinary people before. At White Willow Academy, they ignited their spirituality and broke through to become spirit masters. Sarah pushed open the community gate. What about their abilities? They didn't mention Hugh's abilities. However, from what Dennis implied, they shouldn't be too bad. Hopefully, they will be strong enough. The Investigation Bureau is currently in urgent need of personnel. If Hugh's abilities are not too bad, and he can pass the spirituality test, he could be considered for joining the Investigation Bureau. What about Dennis? Speaking of Dennis, Brian stammered, not knowing where to begin. It is said that he becomes handsome at 11 o'clock in the evening. His physical fitness improves. Most importantly, his sexual ability is enhanced. Sarah looked disgusted. His abilities are quite suited for being a kept man. Trash with such filthy abilities must be strictly regulated to prevent him from using his abilities to do dirty deeds. Then the two arrived at Hugh's doorstep. Knock, knock, knock. The door was knocked on. Hugh got up and walked to the door. In his perception, there were two people standing outside. He carefully looked through the people. He saw the hot-bodied Sarah standing at the door. Hugh opened the door without any hesitation. Just as Brian was taking out his credentials to introduce himself, Hugh snatched them away. You are even slower than I imagined. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Hearing this, Sarah and the other person were startled. What do you mean? You knew we were coming? The man clearly only asked one question. Can you see my wife behind me? As a top-tier spirit master, Sarah was frightened and stunned in place. Because, in her eyes, there was nothing behind the man. Just as she was cursing where a single loser would get a wife from. The next second, a terrifying pressure swept over. Suddenly, time and space twisted. A grotesque monster appeared out of thin air. It turned out that Sarah and the others had just arrived at Hugh's house to investigate the bizarre incident at White Willow Academy. The two seated individuals kept observing Hugh, who seemed unable to see his wife. Hugh couldn't help but feel puzzled. Is he pretending not to see? It seems necessary to gather some information and then look for an opportunity to test it. Brian is making introductions. This is Investigator Sarah. I am her assistant Brian. We are here to inquire about information regarding the mysterious realm of White Willow Academy. At the same time, Sarah was also pondering that Hugh and they have met many people who escaped from the mysterious realm. But they had never seen anyone as calm as Hugh. He wasn't even surprised by their arrival. Sarah asked scrutinizingly,
Did you know about the Investigation Bureau before?
Hugh shook his head.
I don't know. But since ghosts exist in this world without causing disturbances, it's not hard to guess that there is some kind of force maintaining order behind the scenes.
Sarah's gaze turned appreciative.
To be able to survive such eerie events and still think calmly.
Sarah turned into an appreciative gaze. Able to survive in bizarre events. And can also think calmly. You are quite extraordinary. The Investigation Bureau is a special department dedicated to dealing with ghosts. It is the official organization of spirit masters. We have two things to do today. One is to investigate the relevant information of the White Willow Academy mysterious realm. The other is to determine if you are qualified to join the Investigation Bureau. Although there are various types of spirit masters in society, only we have absolute information. We also have the resources needed for spirit master advancement. First, talk about the first thing. All the information you know about the White Willow Academy mysterious realm. Hugh did not answer, but slowly got up. Before answering your questions, I have a few questions that need to be answered by you. Sarah's expression darkened. She exuded a terrifying aura all over her body. She seemed like a wild beast about to burst. Now it is me asking you questions. Please give me an honest answer. Brian hurriedly intervened. Stay calm, stay calm. At this moment, Hugh sensed it. Sarah should be a spirit master, while the assistant is just an ordinary person. It seems like the pairing of a spirit master and an ordinary person. Is this the setup of the Investigation Bureau? Spirit Master spirituality being contaminated by ghosts. Their personalities will become extremely irritable and extreme. Pairing them with a mentally stable person can also play a supervisory and restraining role. Sarah was startled at the words. She seemed to have touched a sore spot. The fire inside her grew stronger. Hush. Are you looking for trouble? Brian quickly held her back. Don't provoke her anymore. Just ask your questions quickly. Hugh calmly stretched out a finger. The first question. What exactly is a ghost? This question is also mostly about what most people want to know from the living. What is a ghost? Where do they come from? What is their purpose? The preliminary definition given by the Investigation Bureau is a distorted entity of spirituality that comes with its own source of contamination. The manifestations of ghosts vary. Some are spiritual entities. Some of them have flesh and blood, while others are merely a conceptual construct. The only thing they have in common is their intense desire for human spirituality. They strengthen themselves by devouring humans. And ghosts appear suddenly without any pattern. Each ghost is like a source of radioactive contamination, constantly radiating ghost energy to the surroundings. Ghost energy will infect spirituality, continuously triggering negative emotions in people, making them irritable and twisted. The power of the Spirit Master is spirituality, a product triggered by the contamination and stimulation from ghosts. Hugh then asked the second question, how are the powers of the Spirit Master divided? At this point, Sarah was already impatient. And Brian was slightly surprised. It seems that Hugh has some knowledge about the Spirit Master. He then took out pen and paper to explain. The power levels of Spirit Masters are divided based on how much of their spirituality they have awakened. My wife saw so many divisions, and couldn't help but lick her lips. We refer to it as First Stage Spirit Master. Their abilities will undergo a qualitative change. 41% to 60% is the third stage, and so on, followed by the fourth stage and the fifth stage. But those materials are all classified. The higher the rank, the harder it is to enlighten spirituality. The number of people is also fewer. Hugh couldn't help but be curious. What will happen after it reaches 100% enlightenment? Brian shook his head. As far as I know, there is no one who has reached 100% enlightenment. Because lighting up more spirituality requires a more powerful ghost. And it requires constantly experiencing breaking through life and death. The Spirit Master and the ghost are in opposition yet complement each other. Only the stronger the ghost can create a stronger Spirit Master. And the current ghost strength is not sufficient to spawn two strong Spirit Masters. Hugh gestured that he was about to ask the third question. And Sarah, who was embarrassed and angry, finally couldn't sit still. I don't have time to listen to your boring questions. Brian, send him the website address of the Global Ghost Forum. Let him look up this basic information himself. Sarah instructed.
This dark web is not regulated by the Investigation Bureau. It is advisable not to trust emails from strangers.
Please tell us all the information about White Willow Academy Mysterious Realm now. You will bear the consequences if you dare to deceive us. I have one last question. Can you see my wife behind me? As soon as these words were spoken, the wife looked at Hugh with love, while Sarah stood stunned in place. She scolded Hugh.
Are you crazy?
Just because in her view, there was nothing behind Hugh. Even the usually polite Brian couldn't help it. What are you talking about? You, a single dog, do you have a wife yourself? At this moment, the wife cheered joyfully. Honey, you can see me, right? Hugh whispered softly. Are you really unable to see, or are you pretending not to see on purpose? At this moment, the two of them only felt that Hugh was very abnormal. Because ordinary people have just broken through to a new Spirit Master level, their state is usually unstable. However, he is unusually calm now. They seriously suspect that Hugh has mental problems. Moreover, it is very serious, with hallucinations appearing. Sarah couldn't hold back and finally exploded. Hugh, are you playing us? Hugh looked at her enraged expression. He felt she didn't seem to be pretending. But he still had a trick up his sleeve. Immediately, he turned around to look behind him. "Darling, I saw you." Just at that moment, Sarah, who was originally angry, she suddenly felt an extremely terrifying pressure, only to see the space to the right of Hugh suddenly distorted. The violent energy continues to gather and compress. A pair of jade feet appear out of nowhere in the originally empty space. A beauty in a white silk nightdress suddenly appears. "Honey, can you see me?" Then the wife let out a gnashing laugh. What a delicious spirit master! Sarah and the two of them were shocked and turned pale. They stood up all at once. "Damn, what is this thing?" Only to see his wife's cherry-like mouth split to the roots of her ears. Her teeth turned into a serrated shape. In the blink of an eye, she transformed into a ferocious and terrifying figure, emitting a suppressed and manic joy. "I haven't had Spirit Master in a long time. I really miss it." At this point, Brian was already scared out of his wits. Sarah was also filled with fear and anxiety. Only Hugh became excited and manic. "Didn't see that coming, right? My wife is actually a ghost. I didn't think you guys didn't know either." Sarah quickly spread out her palm and conjured a purple exotic flame. Two high-temperature flames distorted the space around them. She headed straight towards Hugh and slammed into the old lady behind him. But the terrifying exotic flame was like hitting an iceberg. It didn't cause any harm to the old lady. Sarah's face was full of disbelief. "What?" It remained unscathed. She realized this was a terrifying presence that she couldn't handle on her own. She pulled Brian and turned to run. But how could the wife resist the delicious food in front of her? She just raised her small hand and gently waved it. The two fleeing individuals felt their necks, as if they had been grazed by something. In an instant, their bodies separated. Their heads fell heavily to the ground. Hugh quickly rushed up upon seeing the situation. He hastily unbuttoned Sarah's top, revealing a pair of proud mountains and valleys. Then he looked into the depths of her thighs. There was a pink little fox. At this time, his wife's voice came from behind. "Husband, what do you want to do? While it's hot?" The man was only focused on the forum. So, the wife immediately turned into his mouse, along with the man's quick clicking and rubbing. The wife suddenly blushed. "Please, be gentler. Be gentler, woo." It turns out that Sarah, who had just become a senior spirit master, was defeated in one move by his wife. Hugh quickly rushed up to carefully observe the depths of her thighs. He pulled open her top and fumbled around. It's not because he wanted to take advantage. It was because he wanted to gather more useful information. At this moment, the wife suddenly had a massive bleeding. Hugh lost consciousness again. After the rebirth, the rollback point did not go back to the mental hospital. Instead, it went back to when he was at home, using a surgical knife to probe his wife. It seems that this is a new node. Hugh was secretly pleased. Now that he knew about the existence of the Investigation Bureau, he must make good use of it. They will come to investigate at your doorstep tomorrow at 8:45 in the morning. It's time for the precognitive ability to appear in front of the world. Hugh, who came home, ignores his wife. He opened the computer and searched for information about ghosts. Enter the Global Forum website address that Brian gave him. Opening the website reveals a terrifying skull. What's even stranger is that the layout is similar to some small websites, with sections for Europe and America, Asia, and Japan and Korea. Hugh became interested immediately. He clicked on the domestic section he liked. There are many more categories below. Ghost Spirit Master Bounty. He quickly clicked to search and browse the information. At that moment, his wife suddenly turned into Hugh's mouse. Let him continue to touch her. Wife seemed to reach some kind of climax. Hugh ignored and continued to browse various posts, although the information may not be complete. But at least this is much faster than exploring randomly on your own. Suddenly, a title originated from a ghost appeared in front of him. He clicked on it immediately. A million payment box popped up. He, who only had a few $100 from head to toe, simply looked down on it. He then looked at other posts. Cheap ones cost 1 or 2,000. Sensitive information easily costs tens of millions. Is this the world of Spirit Master? 2.5 hours later, Hugh finally found the information officially released by the Investigation Bureau. With official verification and valuable content, Hugh was completely immersed in it. He spent the whole night reading the post. Got a preliminary understanding of the basic information about ghosts and spirit masters. The level of ghosts is categorized according to the degree of threat, ranked from highest to lowest as SABCD. Some ghosts may not be individually strong, but they pose a significant threat. For example, there was a ghost overseas codenamed Plague. Its strength is so weak that even a first-stage spirit master can kill it. But it can spread a plague on a large scale, causing millions of deaths. Therefore, it is rated as an A-level ghost. S-level ghosts possess the ability to destroy a country within a short period of time. They belong to the nation-destroying level. The higher the level of danger posed by a ghost, the fewer of them there are. The origin of ghosts is unclear and cannot be verified. Some say they appear out of thin air and follow no pattern. Only Hugh knows. Ghosts have always been around humans. Under normal circumstances, they cannot be seen. Once triggered by a certain condition, they will materialize and enter reality. After reading posts all night, he didn't find anyone mentioning being able to see ghosts everywhere. Free posts don't really have much information. I still need to get stronger to make money. Only then can I obtain more useful information from the forum. His biggest gain is seeing a lot of information about ghost artifacts. The shapes of ghost artifacts vary, but they all carry the power of ghosts. They have various incredible functions. Without a doubt, the surgical knife is indeed a ghost artifact. Having cut through countless ghosts, it has long been contaminated. The forum also explains the method of controlling ghost artifacts. If you want to unleash their full power, then you need to use spirituality to infiltrate the core of the ghost artifact. Establish a connection with it. However, using the ghost artifact also comes with significant risks. Its contaminating nature can directly affect the depths of spirituality. This will greatly exacerbate the risk of losing emotional control. Hugh looked at the time. There were still over 3 hours before the Investigation Bureau's visit. During this time, he needs to tame the scalpel. He then started to drive spirituality, continuously delving deeper into the scalpel. His consciousness seemed to enter into a darkness. Inside, there exists countless raging and howling consciousness, like ferocious beasts, fiercely assaulting Hugh's consciousness. Numerous violent killings and despair, along with negative emotions, surged into his body, trying to distort his spirituality into a monster. However, Hugh's spirituality had long been distorted by the dozens of killings. It had become even darker than the negative emotions of a surgeon's scalpel. Hugh chuckled coldly. Is this level of despair the only thing left? He then drove all his spirituality into the scalpel, breaking through the deep negative energy. He successfully left his own mark inside the scalpel, instantly establishing a connection between the two sides. At the same time, Hugh suddenly discovered that his spirituality had been strengthened. It is already lit up by 2%. The scalpel can not only be used as a weapon to attack, and it has 2 other abilities. One is the basic cutting ability. The more spirituality injected, the stronger the cutting power. The other is to mobilize the contained ghost power to strengthen itself. However, this power is too violent. My current physical condition cannot withstand it. The first priority is to strengthen the body. Later, Hugh came to the kitchen to have breakfast. While he was eating, Dennis called. Hugh said calmly,
I know what my ability is. Don't envy it. It's just the ability to know,
he added. Dennis was stunned.
Ah, how did you know?
Could Hugh predict the future?
I wanted to pretend with you,
he continued. Hugh hung up without explaining, and there was nothing urgent, so he hung up.
I have 2 more guests coming later,
he said before hanging up and continuing to have breakfast. At the same time, the headphones of the person listening from a distance suddenly dropped. Brian broke into a cold sweat and couldn't recover for a long time. Sarah immediately frowned. "What are you doing?" Brian said urgently.
"I heard about you and Dennis' abilities."
Sarah was slightly curious. "What ability made you so agitated? Tell me about it." "Dennis' ability is sexual ability." Her face instantly darkened. "It's quite shocking," Brian said solemnly. "The key is Hugh's ability. He can predict the future." Sarah was surprised. "Predict the future?" Brian continued.
"And he just said on the phone that 2 guests will be coming over shortly."
Sarah was suddenly shocked. 2 guests? Could it be that he meant us? Is there really an ability to predict the future in this world? Even if there is, it should not appear on a first-stage spirit master. Hugh has a very narrow social circle. Nobody usually visits him. So it's highly likely that when he says,
"Yes,"
he means us. As a newly advanced spirit master, he should only be able to predict events that will happen in the near future. Sarah opened the door and got out of the car. Instead of speculating here, it's better to go and meet her. I want to see for myself whether this ability to foresee the future is true or false. Soon, the 2 arrived at Hugh's doorstep. They saw that his front door was slightly ajar. Sarah went straight up and pushed the door open. The scene before her suddenly surprised her. At this moment, Hugh was calmly making tea, and wisps of white smoke were rising faintly from the teacup. Obviously, the tea had just been brewed. Hugh calmly said,
"Please have a seat."
Upon hearing this, the look of shock on the 2 people deepened. However, they still walked over slowly. "How did you know we were coming?" Hugh took a sip of tea lightly. "Because my eyes can see the future," the man simply asked.
"Can you see my wife behind me?"
He was scolded and told.
"You don't even have a girlfriend. Do you have any grounds to talk about having a wife?"
But in the next moment, his wife instantly transformed into a terrifying and ghastly ghost. She swallowed the man's head in one gulp. After being reborn, Hugh swore to kill all ghosts. He even boasted that his eyes could see the future. After hearing him say that with his own mouth, Sarah was greatly shocked. But she still did not dispel the doubts in her heart. "How do you prove that you can see the future?" Hugh remained calm. "You are all people from the Investigation Bureau. This time coming over, there are 2 purposes. One is to investigate the matter of the White Willow Academy's mysterious realm. Second is to investigate me and Dennis. See if we are eligible to enter the Investigation Bureau." Brian looked serious. "This does not prove that you can predict the future. If you had known about the Investigation Bureau in advance, our purpose for coming would be easy to guess." Hugh sneered. He looked at Brian with ill intentions. "What's wrong, Hugh? My reasoning is reasonable. You have been secretly in love with Sarah all along and have already written a love letter." Brian was surprised to hear this. His face turned red instantly. Sarah was puzzled. "A love letter?" Hugh continued.
"The love letter is placed in the left side pocket of your jacket."
Brian quickly covered the pocket. He didn't expect the other party to know even this. Sarah looked at Brian. "Is there really a love letter?" Brian looked like a child who had done something wrong. He stammered and unconsciously trembled. "The content of the love letter is,
"When you read this letter, I may have already died."
Sarah leaned in closer. "Pull it out and take a look." Brian, who was close to the goddess, panicked. "Hugh is talking nonsense. I didn't. Really not." But she took a letter out of his pocket. Sarah examined it carefully. The shock in her heart grew stronger because the content was exactly what Hugh had said. But she didn't pay too much attention to the content of the love letter. Even if you know the love letter, it doesn't mean you can predict the future, because it's not written by the future, but by the past. In the face of questioning, Hugh continued.
"Your ability is Purple Exotic Flame with measurements of 85-63-80.
Sarah frowned slightly. My abilities are not a secret. If you guess my measurements correctly, it only shows that you are a pervert. Brian silently recited in his heart. He quickly wrote down this string of numbers. The other party still didn't believe it. Hugh asked,
Do you have a secret that no one knows about? Do you want me to say it out loud?
Brian instantly became interested. His ears perked up. Sarah confidently said,
Go ahead. I have no secrets that I can't share.
You have an extreme pink fetish. Your underwear is all pink with patterns on them. Even a pink little fox tattooed on a certain part of your body. Just as the words fell, there was a sudden roar. Sarah looked at Hugh with jealousy and anger. This is not foresight at all. It's clearly an ability to see through things. You and that Dennis are in cahoots. Both so despicable and shameless. Faced with the anger of the advanced spirit master, Hugh remained calm. Knowing the future does not mean knowing everything about the future at will. I just foresaw last night that you were coming. It only cost spirituality to see the future where Brian was reading a letter late at night, along with the image of you tidying up the closet. Sarah retreated from the flames. There was some shyness hidden in her anger. She felt like Hugh saw more than just that. After all, the little fox is tattooed deep on her thigh. What you said doesn't count as real fortune-telling. What are tonight's lottery numbers? Hugh randomly took the pen and paper. He wrote down a series of numbers. He plans to write down some random numbers first. Then he will return to the saved state after the lottery results are out. In the meantime, he will collect more information. Hugh is so confident. Since you can predict the future, why not buy a lottery ticket and get rich by yourself? Have you heard of the butterfly effect? So don't try to use the power of the investigation bureau to change numbers. You better say what is true. If I find out the lottery didn't win, you know the consequences. Hugh even more confidently said,
If it doesn't win, I can stake my life.
Sarah felt that Hugh was too casual. She felt like she was being played. She immediately got up in anger. Brian quickly tried to calm her down. Let's talk about our experiences at the mysterious realm in White Willow Academy with Hugh. Hugh took a sip of tea and began to recall the matter of the ghost. The mysterious realm appeared suddenly. It was there before we knew it. Everyone is unable to escape from inside the mental hospital. Hugh then briefly described what happened in the mysterious realm. However, he did not reveal too much. After all, the newly promoted first stage spirit master has limited abilities. Of course, he also concealed the matter of the surgical knife to avoid unnecessary trouble. Because spiritual power is limited. So I only used precognitive ability once when I came to a fork in the road. I saw two different scenes. One side showed me and Dennis safely passing through the passage and successfully escaping after encountering the dream-controlling ghost. The other side led to many hospital rooms, with a terrifying aura as if revealing an abyss. Dennis and I would be hunted and dismembered by a female ghost physician. So I speculate that there are dozens of ghosts in the mental hospital. Brian was stunned. Are you sure there are dozens of ghosts? Sarah just smiled. Hugh, do you know what you're talking about? Dozens of ghosts have never appeared globally. In a mysterious realm. Because the mysterious realm is based on the existence of ghosts, there may be phenomena of misplacement or fusion. However, it is difficult for ghosts to coexist peacefully. What you see are just a group of ghost slaves controlled by ghosts. Although their numbers are large, their power is not strong. I see you are scared out of your wits by the mysterious realm. Moreover, you don't really understand what ghosts are. That's why you mistakenly took ghost slaves as ghosts. Hugh does not want to explain to her. It's difficult for you to understand my words at your level. Just report to your leader. Weakness and ignorance are not barriers to survival. Arrogance is. Sarah is furious again. Brian quickly tried to placate her. Thanks to Hugh for being honest. However, the ability to foresee the future is too incredible. So please accompany us back to the investigation bureau. As soon as the words fell, Hugh stood up directly. He went straight to the door. Let's go then. 2.5 hours later. Hugh was taken to a remote and quiet place. Many ghosts were also wandering around the investigation bureau. Hugh was certain that only he could see the ghosts all over the street. The three people arrived at a simple and crude doorway. "Please follow me." He looked towards the passageway leading deeper inside. It exuded endless mystique. Hugh was secretly delighted. Bureau of Investigating Bizarre Events. I hope you won't disappoint me. This is a lie detector worth 250 million. Even a professional fraudster cannot escape its test. Because it is a test that connects to people's spirituality. As long as there is a trace of inconsistency between words and heart, it will be discovered. But it turns the newly promoted Hugh into a righteous person. A person so righteous has never appeared in the history of spirit masters. Hugh from the Investigation Bureau followed the two people down the corridor. I didn't expect that the main body of the Investigation Bureau is underground. And the crude gate is just a camouflage. Hugh was taken to the lounge to wait. Sarah and the other person went to report to the director. After they all left, Hugh releases his spirituality, sensing his surroundings. With the enhancement of the scalpel, his range of perception has also expanded. He is able to clearly perceive the internal situation of the Investigation Bureau. He can even see the movements of Brian and the others in the distance. Unexpectedly, the next second, Sarah suddenly turned back with a serious expression, feeling as if she was being spied on. But she didn't find anything. What's wrong? Sarah let down her guard. It's nothing. Hugh quickly withdrew spirituality. I didn't expect her to be quite sensitive. In the office of the director, Brian and the other person are reporting. The director asked incredulously, "Are you sure his ability is to predict the future?" This ability is of great importance. Whether it's true or not, it is temporarily classified as confidential. No information must be leaked. Brian then passed a note with lottery numbers written on it. Jose said solemnly, "Guessing the numbers is nothing special. Maybe he has already tampered with it in advance. Find two trustworthy people to supervise the entire process of tonight's prize draw. I want to see how capable Hugh is." At this moment, Jose looks at Sarah. "You are also considered a senior spirit master. Do you think he is lying? If what he said is false, then he must be a highly skilled liar with strong psychological qualities. It's too easy to be exposed if he predicts the future. He has no reason to deceive us. But personally, I think he is lying." "Why do you think so?" Jose choked and drank water through his nostrils. "We'll find out whether it's true or false tonight. By the way, he also mentioned that there are dozens of ghosts at the mental hospital." Mentioning this, Sarah couldn't help but raise a mocking smile. "In my opinion, White Willow Academy only has two ghosts. One is the ghost of a female physician. I suggest codenaming it Ghost Physician. The pattern is to kill people nearby and only one person at a time. From the description, the classification is at D level. The other one is a ghost that controls dreams. It is suggested to codename it Dream. The rule is to force people nearby into dreams and trigger various fears leading to murder. Considering its uniqueness, it is suggested to classify it as C level. And White Willow Academy is a fixed mysterious realm with hardly anyone around. In conclusion, its recommended hazard level is C." Jose asked solemnly, "How terrifying is the nightmare's dream?" Sarah continued, "Even someone like Dennis, who is timid and lecherous, can dispel fear with a short film. It proves that dreams are not that intimidating after all. If its ability is prevented in advance, the level of harm is not even as severe as that of Ghost Doctor." Jose nodded. He still believed in Sarah's judgment. "Ask Hugh to come over and have a chat." Sarah was surprised. This doesn't seem right. What if he poses a risk of being out of control? For safety reasons, it's better to let the captain see him. Jose shook his head. Both the captain and the vice captain are not at the bureau. They just went to investigate the whereabouts of the person codenamed Ghost. Sarah was surprised. They actually went on a mission together? Somewhere in LT City at the moment. The two are competing in a chase. It is the captain of the investigation bureau, Joseph, and the vice captain, Bruce, who are competing to see who can solve the ghost first. Joseph just rushed into the car and set off. Bruce immediately jumped onto the car roof handsomely and followed closely. In the lounge, Sarah took out a professional spirituality lie detector. She conducted a spirituality contamination test on Hugh. Different from ordinary lie detectors, this one will detect lies based on the fluctuations of the subject's spirituality. As long as there are inconsistencies between what the person says and what they feel, it will react. So you should answer truthfully. Hugh nodded and placed his hand on the lie detector. Go ahead, ask your question. First question. If a ghost is currently on a killing spree, what would you choose? Option 1 is to fight the ghost. Option 2 is to escape alone. Option 3 is to save as many people as possible and run together. Hugh didn't hesitate at all. I choose to fight the ghost. Sarah looked at the lie detector. There was no lie. She was slightly surprised. She had never imagined that Hugh would be someone who could sacrifice his life for others. But what she didn't know was that Hugh has the ability to rewind death. Even if he can't defeat the ghost, he will keep fighting. By dying multiple times, he can always find its weakness and kill it. The second question. If an intelligent ghost invites you to join, and it promises to give you powerful strength, as well as unimaginable authority and status, would you join? Hugh firmly replied that he would not. Sarah was surprised. Really not? What if your family joined the ghost and invited you to join them? Hugh calmly replied, I have no family. What about friends? From what I know, you have a good relationship with Dennis. He is your only friend. Hugh firmly said, I don't mind not having friends. Sarah then asked a few more questions. But the lie detector remained calm and showed no response. Final question. What is the first thing you want to do after becoming a spirit master? Hugh remains determined. My goal is to kill all ghosts. Sarah was suddenly stunned. Is it a lie? She has tested many newly promoted spirit masters. Because the spirituality of spirit masters has been contaminated by ghosts. The dark side of human nature is amplified infinitely. If you can't beat them, join them. I like ghosts the most. What? Ghosts are on a killing spree. Then I will join in the killing. Let's see who can kill faster and more. Most of them are abnormally selfish and selfish. Except for not like you, in order to kill all ghosts. The team of spirit masters unexpectedly appeared. An angel who empathizes with the suffering of the world. What a remarkable person. Sarah couldn't help but feel ashamed. Compared to her, I feel like a mere ant in the corner. However, Hugh's thoughts are not only to kill all the ghosts, but also to cruelly torture his beloved wife. She must feel 1,000 times more pain than what I've experienced. I cannot let my wife die easily. Then the two of them arrived at the office of the chief. Sarah handed the test report to Jose. He passed the test. Jose introduced himself. I am Jose, the director of LT's City Investigation Bureau. Please have a seat. Hugh had already taken a seat unexpectedly. He nodded. Hello. Jose looked at the report. His eyes widened suddenly. He looked at the test results in disbelief. He quickly took out his reading glasses from his pocket. He looked back and forth repeatedly. This report is too perfect. Even a normal person could not be this perfect. Jose suppressed the shock in his heart. Speaking only of this report, Hugh is really perfect, even without the ability to predict the future. I want to invite you to join the investigation bureau directly. Hugh let go. No rush. Let's talk after the draw. Because what he wants is the value of foresight. Negotiate the appropriate price and resources with the investigation bureau. Does your precognitive ability have any limitations such as the time span or frequency? Hugh pretended to be profound and said, I shuttle between the future and the past, witnessing countless deaths and rebirths. The future for me is just a puppet that can be observed and rewritten at will. The two people were startled. As the two people were chatting casually, the office door suddenly swung open. Jose frowned. I've said it many times. Don't be so impatient. The director is in trouble. The vice captain, he's dead. Jose suddenly stood up. His face was full of shock. Bruce is the strongest combat force in LT City. How could he? He looked at everyone with confusion. It's a pity that the strongest combat force has died. But this could be useful for me. The man is the top spirit master in LT City. He was ambushed by two ghosts while carrying out the mission. In the end, he was killed in an ambush. Upon hearing the news of Bruce's death, Police Chief Jose suddenly stood up, completely losing his composure. Beforehand, both Bruce and Joseph were investigating the whereabouts of the ghost. And the deputy squad leader found the ghost's head in the abandoned building, but did not tell the captain, because he was confident that he could take down the ghost by himself. And indeed, he succeeded. Unexpectedly, there was another ghost hiding there. Bruce was preparing for a fatal blow. He was unexpectedly ambushed by the ghost hiding in the dark. Bruce, severely injured, was no match for the two ghosts. In the end, Here. Jose instantly exploded in anger. What are your intelligence team doing? How can you not even know that there was a ghost hidden there? The staff panicked. They had carefully inspected during the citywide investigation conducted by the intelligence department earlier. It's true that the ghost was not found. It seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. Jose suppressed the anger in his heart. Where is Captain Joseph? The staff member's face turned pale. Joseph is already on his way. Jose frowned. As the director of the investigation bureau, he must not let his anger affect his judgment at this critical moment. Otherwise, the entire LT City will suffer. Then he ordered, You take Hugh to rest first. Sarah will come to the meeting room with me later. Hugh slowly got up. The current investigation bureau can't help themselves either. He couldn't demonstrate the ability to foresee the future. He might as well go out with the staff. Shortly after heading out, Hugh heard the command Jose roared out. Prepare the vehicle quickly. Have all the investigators go out to find me. Notify the Private Spirit Master Organization. Ask them to send people to help. The Investigation Bureau is willing to provide 3,000 spirit coins and 10 spirit incense. Hearing about spirit coins and spirit incense, Hugh's heart moved. He had heard of these two things on the forum, but he had never seen them in person. They were developed by the Investigation Bureau headquarters. Spirit coin is the main currency circulating among spirit masters. However, it can also be used to create weapons and armor. More precisely, spirit coin is a type of spiritual material, especially made spiritual steel. Spirit incense can suppress spiritual pollution, alleviate the loss of control of spirituality in spirit masters. It is a very precious resource for cultivation. In the lounge, the staff is in a state of panic and unease. There are also many staff members outside rushing around busily. Bruce's death has thrown the entire investigation bureau into chaos. While Hugh calmly drinks his tea, he is actually calculating how to use this information to his advantage. Then he went to the glass door and pulled the curtains closed. At this time, Wayne finally reacted.
Hugh, what's wrong with you?
Hugh delivered a fierce chop to his neck. Wayne instantly lost consciousness and fainted. Then Hugh quickly took off his work clothes. After changing into it himself, he left the lounge. He planned to disguise himself as a staff member to gather more useful information. Hugh activated his spirituality to enhance his senses. He listened carefully to the sounds around him. Bruce is so powerful. I didn't expect him to die like this. It's all Joseph's fault for not going together. Otherwise, how could they have been ambushed? I heard that Bruce and Joseph had a conflict. Bruce lost in the captaincy competition and couldn't accept it. But Bruce is known as the unbeatable one in the second stage. But Joseph's lucky ability made Bruce not dare to use his full strength on the day of the competition because he had a stomach ache. In the end, Joseph successfully became the team captain due to his stroke of luck. Hugh heard this and stopped there. It's all gossip with no practical information. Just then, a staff member shouted,
"Quick, go to the meeting room. Joseph is back. Jose is calling for an emergency meeting."
Hugh blended into the crowd and followed everyone into the meeting room. It should be possible to gather a lot of useful information at the emergency meeting. In the meeting room, the long conference table was filled with people on both sides. There were also a dozen staff members standing on the outside. Sitting at the head of the table was the serious and focused Jose. Smoke was swirling around him. Hugh couldn't help but be surprised. He was amazed that someone dared to smoke during such an urgent meeting. Following the smoke, Hugh looked towards the corner behind Jose, where a lonely middle-aged man squatted, smoking feverishly. He kept whispering "Bruce" under his breath. Hugh guessed. Dared to smoke at this occasion. It seems that he is the captain, Joseph. Watching Joseph's melancholic look, their relationship with Bruce isn't as bad as the rumors, right? At this moment, Chief Jose's voice sounded. This ghost has the codename Shadow Ghost. In this battle between Bruce and the Skull Ghost, they did not notice the presence of Shadow Ghost and were ambushed. Even though his speed was fast, he couldn't shake off the shadow chasing closely behind him. He was accidentally attacked by Shadow Ghost, which resulted in serious injuries. He eventually died at the hands of Headless Ghost. Captain Joseph has already taken care of the Headless Ghost. However, after the sudden attack by Shadow Ghost, its whereabouts are unknown. So the top priority is to search intensively for the Shadow Ghost and seek revenge for Bruce. Jose suppresses his inner sadness. However, there is some good news in this bizarre, unfortunate incident. Our Captain Joseph has successfully advanced to the 3rd stage Spirit Master. He has entered the ranks of top Spirit Masters. As soon as these words were spoken, there was an uproar among the people present. There are only a few 3rd stage Spirit Masters in the whole country. At this moment, Joseph in the corner seems as if he hasn't heard anything. He opened the cigarette case and wanted to continue smoking a few more. As a result, he found it empty. He finished a pack of cigarettes in less than 2.5 minutes. He looked at everyone with a lackluster expression and a slightly hoarse voice.
"Do any of you have cigarettes?"
Jose couldn't bear it in his heart, but still rebuked.
"Joseph, you are now a 3rd stage Spirit Master.
You will still be needed to protect LT City in the future. Pull yourself together." Joseph seemed to not have heard the reprimand. He still looked half dead. He turned and walked towards the door. "Then I'll go out and buy a pack myself." Jose gritted his teeth. He didn't want to lose Bruce at the same time, but seeing Joseph giving up on himself made him so angry that he shouted,
"Stop right there! Don't you want to avenge Bruce?"
When Bruce was mentioned, Joseph was momentarily stunned. Revenge? Will revenge bring Bruce back to life? Jose is helpless. He also regrets Bruce's death in battle. But now that things have come to this, he took a pack of cigarettes out of his pocket and threw it over. "I have cigarettes here." Joseph reached out to catch it. "You have cigarettes. Why didn't you say so earlier?" He immediately squatted down. He didn't forget to comment,
"Wow, Joseph, what kind of family are you from? You smoke such expensive cigarettes every day."
Just then, the door of the meeting room was suddenly opened. After enduring for half a day, Jose suddenly exploded in anger. He yelled towards the doorway.
"How many times have I said it? Pay attention to discipline. Discipline."
Wayne, who was crying bitterly, panicked and said,
"Jose, something terrible happened. The person you just asked me to take to the break room knocked me unconscious and ran away. He even stole my work uniform."
Jose was instantly filled with shock and anger.
"What? You're saying he ran away? Everyone, be on high alert. Find him and bring him to me."
Hugh in the crowd covered his face to avoid being seen. He sighed, realizing that his skills were not professional enough. He had not expected him to wake up so quickly. Just then, a furious female voice sounded.
You're actually here.
Sarah suddenly stood up and glared angrily at Hugh. The staff present immediately reacted, pulling out their guns one after another. At that moment, all eyes were focused on Hugh. It seemed that any movement from him would immediately result in being shot. The man was only wearing work clothes. The next second, he was surrounded by Investigation Bureau personnel with guns. But he was not afraid at all. Instead, he walked slowly up to the third stage spirit master. He asked calmly,
"Do you want Bruce to be resurrected?"
Just as the words fell, a terrifying pressure swept through the meeting room. Joseph's face turned dark as he said,
"Kid, no matter who you are, don't make jokes about the deceased lightly. Otherwise, people will die."
The sudden pressure made his body unable to move. Hugh was secretly shocked. Is this the strength of a third-stage spirit master? But he still remained composed. Just answer me whether you want to or not. The staff present were stunned for a moment. Without any orders, they didn't dare to come forward. Only Jose angrily accused Hugh. At one moment, he claimed to predict the future. At another moment, he claimed to resurrect the dead. Quickly, seize him for me. Just as the staff were about to take action, Joseph raised his hand to stop them. He stared wearily at Hugh. Can you really save Bruce? Joseph felt like he was going crazy. The ironclad rule that the dead cannot be brought back to life has remained unchanged throughout history. Not to mention that Bruce's body has been eaten. What possibility of resurrection is there? Hugh continued to ask.
Where were you when Bruce died? Were you far away from him?
Joseph buried his head to hide his grief. At that time, due to incomplete clues, I was in the nearby suburb. If I could have arrived in town earlier, then he wouldn't have died. Hugh continued.
Great. Give me your phone number. And tell me one of your secrets.
Joseph was stunned. Phone number? Aren't we talking about resurrecting Bruce? However, Hugh just said lightly,
I can't bring the dead back to life.
As soon as the words fell, Joseph, feeling toyed with, was about to explode in anger. Unexpectedly, Hugh continued, saying another sentence. But I can go back in time. Reverse the situation of Bruce being killed. Hearing these words, everyone present was shocked. They all questioned what Hugh said. This is more exaggerated than resurrecting the dead. Even novels wouldn't dare to write such a thing. Joseph questioned.
You're not a spirit master at all. You're a god master, right?
At this moment, a storm raged in Sarah's heart. Only she had unwavering faith in Hugh's words. She recalled what Hugh had said in the office before. It turned out he was not showing off. Rather, he was expressing his abilities in a different way, going back to the past to change the future. Hugh explained,
I will go back to before the accident happened and call you to save him. So, I need a secret that will make you believe me.
Joseph looked at him with a skeptical expression. Hugh continued to persuade. Joseph has nothing to lose by giving it a try. Joseph was immediately persuaded. Slowly, he set out his own phone number. As for the secret, it's before the election of the team captain. It's not that Bruce ate something wrong. It's that I secretly gave him a laxative. But my ability is luck. So no one has ever doubted me. The whole venue fell silent instantly. Everyone stared at Joseph in disbelief. It's as if they were meeting him for the first time. They never expected Joseph to do such a thing. Only director Jose angrily reprimanded him. I never expected you, kid, to play such dirty tricks. Joseph looked desolate again. Let's forget it. It's useless to speak when people are already dead. Hugh suddenly spoke.
This secret is enough. Just wait for the phone call.
After saying this, Joseph's throat tightened. He believed in Hugh's words wholeheartedly, as if they could revive Bruce at any moment. Then the scene suddenly quieted down. Everyone dared not make a sound. They silently watched Hugh. Time passed by second by second. Everyone seemed to be waiting for something. But nothing happened for a long time. Hugh suddenly spoke up.
Why are you all staring at me? Let's continue the meeting.
Joseph couldn't help but ask.
Aren't you supposed to go back to the past? We are waiting for you to act.
Hugh's lips curled up slightly. When did I say I wanted to go back now? Joseph, who felt like he was being played, was about to explode. But he was stopped by Jose nearby.
All right, Joseph, take this crazy babbling lunatic to the confinement room,
Jose commanded. Joseph saw Jose giving him a sign. He immediately understood. He said to Hugh,
Come with me for a while.
Shortly after, the two of them arrived at the confinement room. Joseph explained the reason for coming here. Just now, Jose had some concerns, which is why he asked me to bring you here. Don't think too much. After all, the hope of resurrecting Bruce all rests on him. We can't offend him for the time being, whether it's true or false. Hugh expresses his understanding. Why don't you talk about the ghost of mankind and the shadow ghost, as well as the information about Bruce, the deputy team leader? Joseph lit a cigarette. Then he said slowly, Bruce's ability is speed. He has an unimaginable speed advantage, far exceeding others at the same level. Just this time, he was restricted by intelligence and suffered severe injuries from a surprise attack. Joseph detailed the events of this incident. It took about 2.5 hours. The door of the cell was suddenly pushed open. Sarah, holding a lottery ticket, angrily exclaimed,
Hugh, not a single one of the numbers you wrote down has won.
She then threw the numbers at Hugh.
Check them yourself.
Upon hearing this, Joseph couldn't help but put out his cigarette. He glared angrily at Hugh.
I warned you. Joking about the dead will get you killed.
But Hugh ignored him and carefully noted down the numbers on his hand. Is this tonight's lottery result? Sarah coldly chuckled. Didn't you say earlier that if you guessed wrong, you'd pay with your life? I'd like to see that. However, before she could finish her sentence, Hugh directly pulled out a surgical knife from his pocket. He pointed straight at his own forehead. With a slight smile, he said,
Don't worry. I'll do as I promised.
The next second, the scalpel went straight into his own forehead. Then, let's meet in the morning. Hugh fell down under the shocked gaze of the three of them. A person who is truthful, trustworthy, and decisive. They have never seen anyone like him in their lifetime. The man simply wrote down a few numbers casually. He said that these are the lottery numbers for tonight. He even boasted that he could win 220 million. But by nightfall, Sarah found that she didn't match a single number. To confirm his precognitive abilities, Hugh calmly pulled out a sharp surgical knife. He stabbed himself in the head and killed himself. Then Hugh lost consciousness. After being reborn, he followed Sarah. The two of them arrived at the investigation bureau. This time loop, he completely repeated what he did last time, to avoid causing the butterfly effect. Coming here again, Hugh smiled slightly in his heart. It's time to show true foresight of the future. 3 people entered the main body of the investigation bureau. Hugh stopped in his tracks. He said casually,
There will be a male staff member answering a phone call around the corner ahead.
Just then, a male staff member suddenly appeared ahead, coincidentally with a phone ringing. As the staff member approached, Sarah and the others were very surprised. Someone really answered the phone. Brian didn't react immediately. Subconsciously, he asked,
Did he predict all this just now?
And Hugh seemed to be back home. He came to an office area as if he were on familiar ground. He said lightly,
A man will stretch in a moment. He will bump into a female employee.
The next second, accompanied by a scream, the female employee holding a water cup was knocked down. Brian explained incredulously, He seemed like a deity whose words were followed as law. The arrogant Sarah retorted, saying it was just a reasonable speculation. Hugh glanced at the 2 people standing still in surprise. Let's go. The lounge is this way. While Sarah and Brian were dumbfounded, Hugh took the lead as if he were the host. He accurately took out green tea and coffee from the drawer, which they usually drink. He carefully brewed coffee for Sarah and made tea for Brian. Looking at the coffee in her hand, both of them appeared confused. As if they were the guests instead, Sarah asked.
When did you visit the investigation bureau?
However, Hugh just kindly added some sugar to Sarah's coffee. Brian was even more surprised. You even knew that she wanted to add 5 sugars. Hugh poured himself a glass of plain water and said lightly,
I have mentioned that my eyes can see the future. And you should go report to Jose. He has some free time right now.
The two fell into silence once again. If there were doubts before, most of them have been dispelled by now. They believe that Hugh really has the ability to foresee the future. Meanwhile, a white car sped through the outskirts. This is Joseph, who is on a mission outside to find the ghost's whereabouts. Suddenly, the phone rang. Joseph answered without thinking. After all, very few people had his phone number.
Hello, who is this?
Joseph's carefree voice rang out. It was a stark contrast to his demeanor after Bruce's death. Just then, a calm voice came from the phone. Half an hour later, Bruce will die. Joseph suddenly stepped on the brake. His careless expression immediately turned serious. Who are you? My name is Hugh. I am a person who can predict the future. Currently a guest at the Investigation Bureau. I foresee that Bruce will be killed by a ghost in half an hour. You can still make it to save him now. Joseph replied sternly.
I don't care who you are. Do you know that making jokes recklessly can lead to deaths?
A calm voice was heard on the other end of the phone. The team captain suspected that you had secretly given Bruce a laxative before the competition, causing him to underperform. However, due to your lucky ability, no one doubted you. Joseph was shocked and blurted out in an instant. How did you know? I have never told anyone this secret before. Bruce is chasing after the target ghost in the unfinished building. But there is another shadow ghost lurking there. It will ambush Bruce at a critical moment, causing him serious injury. He is ultimately surrounded and killed by the ghosts. After saying that, Hugh hung up the phone. Joseph couldn't calm down in the car for a long time. His face was dark and uncertain. He carefully pondered the previous conversation. Immediately, he quickly turned the steering wheel and made a U-turn. He stepped on the gas pedal wildly, heading towards the location that Hugh mentioned. Although he did not believe in precognition, he preferred to believe there was rather than not, especially when the other party had revealed the secret of the laxative. Inside the lounge, Hugh hung up the phone. The next step is to rely on Joseph to save Bruce. Just then, Sarah walked in holding the lie detector test for spirituality. She looked at Hugh with ill intentions. In front of the lie detector test. Let's see how long you can keep pretending. Hugh picked up the lie detector test on his own. In Sarah's shocked gaze, he skillfully placed his hand on top. Ask away. Sarah was stunned for 2.5 seconds. Then she reacted. The first question. If. Unexpectedly, Hugh interrupted directly. I choose one. He then ignored the stunned Sarah. He answered the questions Sarah prepared one after another, and his answers were all perfect. The lie detector has never gone off. After speaking, Hugh stood up. He calmly said to the petrified Sarah, the test is over. Let's go. We should go see Jose. Sarah unwillingly checked the lie detector. Is it broken? The two of them arrived at the director's office. Jose first scrutinized the young man in front of him. To be honest, Hugh, as a newly promoted spirit master, your abilities far surpass those of others. It's hard for me to believe that you can predict the future. Hugh calmly responded.
Jose, have you ever considered that maybe I am simply on a different level than them?
Upon seeing Hugh acting so pretentiously, Jose restrained himself from the impulse to punch him.
Sarah, he gave me his polluted spirituality test report.
Sarah has not yet recovered from the shock just now. She stammered and said,
I didn't write the report.
Hugh already knew all the questions before they were asked. Moreover, he answered them perfectly. At this moment, Hugh thought he should find a weakness for his ability to foresee the future. Otherwise, it would give the impression that it could be used at will, reducing the bargaining power. He immediately responded,
The cost of foreseeing the future is not high, but it comes with a great price.
that is the risk of losing control easily in spirituality and turning toward evil. In order to prevent this situation from happening, I publicly use my precognitive abilities to attract the attention of the Investigation Bureau and join them in order to stabilize my spirituality with spirit incense. This will enable me to use my precognitive abilities frequently. Upon hearing this, Jose became solemn. This reasonable explanation sheds light on Hugh's actions. It turns out his goal was to obtain spirit incense. If I may ask, what salary range would you expect if Hugh invited you to join the Investigation Bureau? I request to enjoy the salary of a second-stage spirit master. Additionally, an extra piece of spirit incense will be added every month. In addition, an extra fee must be paid if you want to use my abilities. Jose is speechless. If it's confirmed that you can foresee the future, I might agree to your request. But as for the additional fee, I'm afraid not. Hugh interrupted Jose directly. It seems you haven't realized the value of foreseeing the future. But you will soon know. I have prepared a big gift for the Investigation Bureau. Jose frowned. Have a bad premonition. I wonder what the big gift is. Hugh smiled wickedly. Vice Captain Bruce of the Investigation Bureau sighed. The man simply said,
Just a little gift for the Investigation Bureau.
He was then pinned to the ground by a top-level spirit master, unable to move. Just because this sentence is too easy to be misunderstood. Jose slammed his hand down on the table. He glared at Hugh with towering rage. Are you threatening me with Bruce's life? However, Hugh remained unfazed. It's not a threat. It's a gift. If you don't believe me, you can call Bruce. Jose did not rush to make the call. Instead, he gave Sarah a wink. Sarah immediately understood and went to Hugh's side, restraining him. Once she realized that something was wrong with the other party, she could immediately subdue him. Just as Jose was about to make a phone call, the office's door was suddenly opened. The series of sudden events made Jose unable to bear it. How many times do I have to say it? Knock on the door before entering. Knock on the door, do you understand? The person who came is none other than Joseph, the captain of the Investigation Bureau. He asked anxiously. Is there anyone named Hugh in our office? Seeing Joseph Jose made me worry. Why are you back? Aren't you supposed to be chasing after the ghost with Bruce? Joseph is very anxious. Bruce is seriously injured and in the hospital. But that's not important. Where is Hugh? I heard that Bruce was seriously injured. Sarah immediately released 3,000 exotic flames. Hugh, what have you done to Bruce? Hugh looked grave. He unexpectedly suffered serious injuries. Fortunately, his life was spared. He is right here. He just mentioned that he wanted to give a big gift to the Investigation Bureau. You rushed in to report that Bruce was seriously injured. That is indeed a big gift. Joseph's expression changed 180 degrees. He even raised his thumbs up. Ah yes, indeed a big gift. Sarah was momentarily stunned. She looked at Joseph's gift in disbelief. Joseph rushed over.
You're the youngster, Hugh, right?
Thanks to you calling ahead this time, I was able to save Bruce in time, otherwise he would have been in real danger. Everything that happened at the scene was exactly as you described. Seeing the scene in front of them, Jose and the others were dumbfounded. What on earth is going on? Hugh smiled faintly. Are you satisfied with the gift I have prepared for you, Jose? And Sarah, accept your exotic flame. I can't handle your enthusiasm. Proud Sarah was so angry that she couldn't speak for a moment. Unexpectedly, Hugh saved the situation with just one phone call. The Life and Time City's first spirit master's reputation is indeed formidable. If Bruce's incident was not man-made, then your abilities do possess extremely high strategic value. I can agree to your request. But we'll have to wait until after the draw before deciding. Sarah, you take Hugh back to the resting room to wait. Joseph, you stay. I have something to ask you. Joseph regained a serious expression and nodded in agreement. He then whispered a sentence in Hugh's ear. "I will come find you later." The two people in the lounge were silent. Sarah was very unwilling to be with Hugh, because Hugh not only knows her preferences, even the tattoo in her hidden place has been seen by him. Thinking of this, Sarah blushed. She always felt like a transparent person in front of Hugh. There was no privacy to speak of. And Hugh stared at Sarah without any scruples. He seemed to be plotting something. Her neck turns out to be very white and slender, extremely smooth. There are also two large peaks in front. She's very much like the wife at home. The hand in the pocket couldn't help but fidget. I really want to stab her in the neck with a scalpel. Unfortunately, human blood is warm, unlike my wife. But does my wife bleed too? If her blood splattered on my body, it would be very refreshing and pleasant, right? 2.5 minutes later, the door to the lounge was pushed open. Joseph cleared his throat. "Sarah, can you step out for a moment? I need to talk to Hugh alone." Sarah tugged at her clothes. She had wanted to leave a long time ago. Joseph was curious. A man and a woman alone in a room together. Could it be that they... He quickly sat down in his seat, putting on the appearance of an elder. He asked with a smile,
"Hugh, you didn't tell anyone else about me drugging Bruce, did you?"
Hugh found the captain's focus rather strange. Even when facing Director Jose, who has the ability to foresee the future, they were extremely cautious. I didn't expect this to be Joseph's biggest concern. It turns out to be the incident of drugging Bruce. Hugh thought for a moment and said,
"Currently, no one else besides me knows about it.
But in the future, it's hard to say." Joseph suddenly looked nervous. "What do you mean by that?" "My idea is, a silencing fee is needed." Joseph instantly felt depressed. Then he played the emotional card. "You must be wanting to join the investigation bureau, right? I am your team leader. I can cover for you in the future. And the investigation bureau is very deep. You are also a newcomer." Hugh interrupted him directly. "You don't want the fact that you drug people to be known, right?" Joseph was obviously a little anxious. "You haven't joined the investigation bureau yet. Believe me or not. 200 spirit coins." "I only get 10 spirit coins a month, you go ahead. I'd rather be beaten to death by Bruce." Joseph gives. Don't. Just kidding, Hugh. How about 100? Joseph gives. Joseph quickly agreed. All right, 200. I will give you 200. 2.5 hours later. It's almost time for the lottery draw. Everyone was chatting in the director's office. Only Joseph was squatting sadly in the corner. "Sarah, can you lend me some spirit coins?" Sarah angrily replied,
"The captain has 20 spirit coins a month, and I only have 5 spirit coins. Do you want to borrow money from me?"
After hearing their conversation, Hugh felt he was too hasty. He realized he would have to extort Joseph again in the future. Just at that moment, the computer displayed the lottery results. Today's winning lottery numbers are 0, 1, 12, 17, 18, 26, 27, 05. As one number after another is called out, all eyes were fixed on the numbers. All the numbers matched exactly what Hugh had written down. We won! We won! The numbers match exactly. Joseph suddenly hugged Hugh with excitement.
"From today on, you are my real brother. Can you help me predict the numbers for the next draw?"
Jose quickly rebuked.
"Using your predictive abilities too much can deepen your spirituality and lead to losing control. How could you use it for such trivial matters?"
The confirmation of Hugh's ability to predict the future is now established. It must be kept absolutely confidential to the outside. Just refer to it as a sensing ability. I am now inviting you to join the Investigation Bureau. The benefits mentioned before will all be implemented. Hugh nodded in agreement. He is also quite satisfied with this outcome. It wasn't in vain for him to commit suicide once. Joseph suddenly asked,
"Jose, how do you plan to communicate with those above?"
Report to the Investigation Bureau headquarters. Recommend listing it in the Global Spirit Master Talent Archives. Relevant information should be included in the top secret files. Hugh. Rated S. Codename, Prophet. Ability. Precognition of the future. Joseph is astonished. Hugh's ability is of extremely high value. Are you not worried that once reported, people will come after him? And why haven't I been included in the Global Spirit Master Talent Database? How come he can be listed as an S-level personnel? There must be some shady dealings going on. It is precisely because the strategic value of foreseeing the future is extremely high that one should develop on a higher platform. Hugh going to headquarters is definitely better than staying in LT City. That's right, Hugh. The information shows that you and Dennis are best friends who share life and death. He awakened as a spirit master in the mysterious realm just like you. I think he can also join the investigation bureau. This will not only help strengthen Hugh's relationship with the investigation bureau, but also create a connection for him here after he goes to headquarters. It's a perfect decision to assist with LT City's missions. At this time, Sarah countered.
But Jose, his ability is just his performance. Do we still want someone like that?
No problem. With the improvement of spirituality, his abilities will also undergo a qualitative change. Let him join, and do no harm to Bally. Hugh didn't care at all about this. He said lightly,
As you wish.
Hugh's situation has been confirmed. Jose immediately said,
Now Hugh is one of us.
Joseph, can you talk about the situation where the Shadow Ghost ambushed Bruce? Speaking of the Shadow Ghost, Joseph became serious and earnest. Although there is no evidence, I speculate that it is highly likely to be a human act. When dealing with the Shadow Ghost, even though his whole body was surrounded by shadows like the ghost, it made me feel like I was fighting against a human. If I had not been lucky enough to cut off the head of the humanoid ghost first and break through to the third stage on the spot, I'm afraid I would not have been its match at all. And it seems like the opponent has been holding back all along. The moment they saw me break through, they immediately slipped into the shadows and disappeared. Then Joseph took out a playing card from his pocket. And I also discovered this at the scene. Ace of Spades. This is a playing card made by the Steel of Spirituality. Hugh couldn't help but be curious. Do ghosts use things like this as well? Jose said solemnly.
If this was left behind by Shadow Ghost, it indicates that he is very likely a spirit master. And there is also a huge organization behind him.
The matter of Shadow Ghost is not simple. We need to plan for the long term. Sarah, please take Hugh to go through the admission process first. After completing the formalities, he returned home. His wife was always around him. Honey, I miss you so much. But Hugh ignored her. He was looking at the investigator's badge in his hand. He finally succeeded in joining the investigation bureau. Now with the resources of the investigation bureau, revenge is even closer. Darling, look forward to it.